when researchers have looked into and what they seem to and what they would like to see is what they would look into, which would be like addiction. They found out a bunch of really interesting things.
Hey everybody, today we're debating whether or not OnlyFans customers are causing harm, and we are starting right now with Shark 300's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us first time. Shark, the floor is all yours.
Sure, thanks for having me on, James. So, and OnlyFans, we all know OnlyFans, it blew up over the issues that was going on around the country. It's very interesting because it's kind of like weaved into many facets and kind of supplanted itself as like a household name. But we typically talk about the people who are making the content, but it seemed like we want to talk about the people who are imbibing in the content, which is perfectly fine. I think it's worth talking about. It's possible that this could touch on like the broader concept of porn in our society in general and what role it has and what it can and what it can't do, what it should, what it shouldn't do. And there are many avenues that we could take there. Personally, we are going to be taking the position that OnlyFans consumers are not causing harm, and not only not causing harm, could actually be providing a valuable service and could be doing something either neutral or good for the people who are providing the content. When it comes to just porn generally, it's a pretty decent thing in society. It's been correlated with reducing violent crime, especially sexual crime. It's been correlated to helping marriages along and having stronger marriages. It can do many things, and it can be many things. People can people can use it unhealthily, as you can do literally anything. But that does not mean that simply because it exists or simply because you can use it or because you buy it, it means that you're doing something wrong or something wrong is happening. Also, I noticed, I'm going to just take this down. While we're here, it was given to me by a friend. It's typically obstructed by my chat, but it was given to me by a friend. So yeah, and I can throw it over to Maddie.
Great, thanks, Shark. And let me know if you can't hear me very well. I think my microphone is slowly dying, but OnlyFans customers do not create harm. And as Shark had mentioned, they in fact have a lot of positive impacts and lead to positive outcomes. One thing I want to point out as we're getting started here is that in order to claim that there's harm being done, you need to demonstrate that it is leading to a tangibly negative outcome, and that is in direct correlation to what you're proposing the cause is going to be. So I'm curious to hear what metric the opposition is using to define what is harmful, that is absent of their own personal moral ideology. Because if we're talking about things like addiction, there's plenty of science and evidence that shows that porn does not lead to addiction. In fact, it is simply something that people with more like impulse control issues default to, or they may argue that it changes brain chemistry, which is also scientifically false. And that is backed up with neurological studies and by just about every single expert in the field of addiction and neurology. It does not, in fact, do that. So when we're talking about harm being done, what harm? In fact, I would say, even compared to regular porn viewers, OnlyFans viewers do much more good because they're fairly compensating the sex workers that of the content they watch on the sex workers' terms. So when we're thinking about preventing exploitation, that would be a major benefit. So I'm excited for this conversation because there are so many great things about porn, and I can't wait to describe them and have a lively debate.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening. And want to let you know, folks, before we kick it over to the yes side in particular, Andrew and Rachel will be arguing that, yes, OnlyFans consumers are causing harm. But first, want to let you know, we are absolutely stoked. DebateCon is becoming bigger and bigger by the moment. Melody Mack, Go Boom on YouTube, has agreed to come to DebateCon. That's Saturday, September 19th.
Chat, what's DebateCon?
In Plano, Texas. You don't want to miss it. For example, a debate that is occurring there. Destiny and Matt Dillahunty collide on the bodily autonomy argument, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen. It's going to be huge. Click on that link in the description box for tickets if you're in the Texas area. And with that, we're going to kick it over to Andrew and Rachel. Thanks so much for being with us. The floor is all yours for your opening as well.
You want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
Sure. Why don't you start?
Okay. Well, thanks for having us tonight, James. Appreciate it. I'd like to take a second to point out that I listened today while I was working to Shark, who was reviewing various debates I had that weren't specifically on this topic, but they were pretty close. And I kind of found it amusing. As is typical, of course, he points to empirical evidence like most leftists do for any society-wide prescriptions, and those who use any metrics or epistemology he dismisses as, quote, baby-brained. You see, from his viewpoint, conservatives are just plain stupid. I can't blame somebody suffering from left-wing indoctrination thinking these things, but you see, my problem with him is his justification process. You see, I like arguing with utilitarians a lot. They have a seemingly justified worldview, or at least some kind of epistemology and justification. Shark over here just wants us to grant that we should all start with empiricism and empirical data, and no justification is necessary, except that worldview, or of course, you're stupid. He also pointed out many times that intuitions aren't evidence of anything. That's just baby-brained after all. We need data. But you see, to paraphrase and poorly impersonate a friend of mine, Omni, who's probably going to end up winning philosophy awards in his lifetime, and I think is a skilled utilitarian debater, well, what is there really other than intuition? After all, in sociology, that's all we're measuring. Take a stoplight study. They might ask hundreds of people if they associate red with stopping more than green. More people may respond red, so they make public policy based on their intuitions, never actually stopping to ask them why they do, because in that case, they don't need to. In fact, sociology is mostly just studying the intuitions of people and publishing the findings of their responses. Very rarely are there motivations for why they think a thing even taken into consideration, only that they do. This is true enough, of course. Our harm reductionist friends over here can't tell us why they want harm reduced other than their intuition tells them it's optimal. Nothing more. Then they search out empirical data to figure out the things people report as being harmful to them and want to base all public policy on that, dismissing all other metrics outright as being baby-brained, or my favorite, feelings, when that's literally what their sociological studies are mostly gauging. What we want out of them tonight are justifications. We want them to justify why we ought to even use their empirical data, even if all the data points to just things you like. The ask is we just grant their worldview as being justified, which is totally absurd. Harm reduction is a subjective spectrum of nonsense, and it's not our primary edict. Now we will use their worldview as well to wreck them using their own empirical data standards. But just note that, like all Twitch people, they just assume we ought to grant their worldview to even have an argument, when really that's just us being totally benevolent and understanding that since everybody who is a Twitch poll scumbag argues inside the framework of harm reduction, that they just don't know any better. So this will be a Medata discussion, most likely with the false premise of we all want to reduce harm, some subjective category that they came up with. Likely the most amusing part of this statement is I doubt either party believes in objective truth, but we'll say we should go for empirical data to get as close to the objective truth as we can. Ignoring that irony, we will humor them with a single question. or a series of questions anyway. Why is OnlyFans good for society? Why are simps good for society? Why is any of this good for society? The answer will be, well, it has some good things about it and some bad things about it. So do the good things outweigh the bad things? Without ever justifying at all why you should accept that even if the good metrics do outweigh the bad things, that you should accept that as being justified somehow. Even by that metric, though, the good things will not outweigh the bad things using their own data. And that's what I have.
All right, my turn.
Yes.
Okay, so Andrew's right. Whenever you're arguing with, especially Twitch people or leftists in general, they want you to grant this materialist worldview where the only acceptable form of epistemology is going to be empiricism, right? But unfortunately for them, I'm really shocked because I heard that one of the people on the panel thinks I'm not a real researcher because I'm not doing these things in a university setting when I do research, even though that would eliminate like 95% of all books that have ever been written throughout history as being reliable research. If they took a look at the research, at the data, at the statistics that we do have, it's not on their side at all. I have tons. I mean, they give you some vague stuff like, well, I mean, but porn can be good. And like, generally we can correlate it with an overall reduction in some kind of sexual crime, which is absurd. That you're going to end up arguing the same thing that racists argue when they say, well, when we look at crime statistics, you know, we can prove that certain races are more violent or this or that. And it's like, yeah, but when you dig into the correlates, it's not really there. Like that direct correlation is not really there. It's the same thing with this. So we have data showing that this is harmful, and both of our opponents are on that socialist communist economic side of things. So it shocks me that they would support OnlyFans when only the top 1% of accounts make 33% of all the money on OnlyFans, and the top 10% of accounts make 73% of all the money. The average creator only brings home about $180 a month. It's really low. Most people cannot survive on it. They're supplementing income at best. The normal, like, universal law of distribution is like the 80-20 rule. OnlyFans is 80-14. It has less economic equality than South Africa, a former apartheid state. So to argue that harm is not being done to the creators, I think is going to be really tough just based on that. But we also have, I don't know where Maddie got her statistics from, but I have studies right here that show again and again that researchers find neuroplasticity in the brain is deeply affected by viewing pornography, that human sexuality is highly plastic and malleable, especially with kids seeing porn for the first time at an average age of 11 years old now. And then the other big dimension to this, how we can prove that the simps purchasing this content are creating harm, is a wonderful book called The Visibility Trap by Mary McGill. She's an Irish researcher, and she found that most of the creators on OnlyFans are experiencing leaks of their content in Discords, forums online. Many of them have been stalked or tracked in person because their data gets leaked. OnlyFans is not super secure and safe. This idea that it's safer than sex work on the street has not held up over time now that we've got more data on how the site works. There's been popular sex workers or OnlyFans girls on this channel who have quit because OnlyFans did not live up to the promise of safety, right, for them. So aside from that, we're also seeing marriage decline, birth rates decline, and we're seeing young men settle for parasocial relationships where they send a girl $6 a month to look at her butthole and say, that's, you know, it's easier than dating. I'm just going to settle for this. So I'm interested to hear what they have as their justification or their proof, because Andrew's going to kind of take the philosophical wing, the logistics, the logics of this debate, and I'm going to present some of the empirical evidence because that's what they want. So if you look at the actual empirical evidence, it's very hard for me to find any way that you could argue their point, but we'll see.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening as well. And before we jump into the open conversation, just a couple of other quick housekeeping type things. In particular, our guests are all linked in the description. I can tell this is going to be a good one tonight, folks. I'm very excited about it, but I've also got to show you this epic poster for our event that we just released. This is for DebateCon 2 in Plano, Texas on Saturday, November 19th. You don't want to miss it. If you are not in the Texas area, we're going to stream all of these debates live for the public for the channel. As you can see, for example, at the top, Aaron Ra will be taking on Muslim Daniel Hakikachu. Matt Delahunty will be debating both Destiny as well as Muslim Kenny Bomer that day. And then you can see some of the other stars. We have so many people, we can't even fit them on the poster. It's going to be amazing. So with that, we're going to jump into this open conversation. Thanks very much. Andrew, Rachel, Shark030, and Maddie Cakes. The floor is all yours.
So just really quickly, I want to say what I'm hearing from Rachel is that OnlyFans is bad because only the top 1% or like whatever percent make money from it. And I'm so thrilled to hear her say that, because hearing you advocate for the redistribution of wealth for in a capitalist system, and how capitalism and OnlyFans being like a microcosm of that is only leading to the top people making money. We stand a base queen. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a problem. It's a critique of your worldview, though. Why don't you
And
understand
I'm also,
that?
it's also curious too.
That's a critique of your worldview.
You're defending it as
How can you
not.
defend it as a
I'm
comment?
also concerned.
No, wait.
One thing, because that's a data point. Because that's a data point too.
I have to
and it's
correct
interesting
you though, because you misinterpreted the data point. You said that no, you misinterpreted the data. It is not
I
representative.
thought you don't care about data.
It's you care about data. So
But I don't think. But why does it? But you're saying that data doesn't
I
matter.
have to do this, but I have to mute everybody just to restore order so this doesn't go off the tracks right away. So just a moment. I want to give you a chance to respond, Maddie. So I want to give Maddie plenty of time because that was a good chonky statement from you, Andrew and Rachel. And then I promise we'll come right back to you, Rachel. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah. So I mean that was just an interesting tidbit. Also, it's interesting that you're using data as the crux of your argument because, quote, we believe in data. But if you didn't believe in data or believe that it had any value in terms of putting a point forward, then you're kind of just arguing against yourself, because you're having to use our assumption and foundation as the jumping ground for your entire point of view. And that just feels a little weird, a little bizarre. And I guess I'll toss it over because I know Shark also has lots of things he wants to say, but it's just interesting when you talk down data and how data doesn't matter. But intuition, on the other hand, AKA feels, is the real indicator of truth. But it's only your feels, right? It's not other people's feels. So what a fascinating turn of events for the conservative wing of Twitch. Feelings over facts. You gotta love them for being upfront about it and going mask off.
Okay. Let me be sure. Shark, I think you were handing it over to Shark, but at the same time, I wasn't sure because Rachel, if you want to respond, we'll give you a chance. Go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, this is why it's so hard to debate women, because you get a lot of, oh, I guess, oh, wow, interesting. It's like, can you just be a little bit more adult about it and present your points without all the snarky snipiness? It's like, just stop with that crap. But Maddie completely misinterpreted everything we said. We did not say that empiricism did not matter or that data did not matter. We said it's not the only thing that matters. Empiricism is not the only way to determine truth.
She also needs to learn what an internal critique is. Right?
But But what I'm saying is we can present different proofs. So Andrew can perform a philosophical argument. I can give you empirical data that refutes yours. We can do both. And it's not a microcosm of capitalism. I just got done telling you that it's actually far more exploitative than capitalist systems, even the worst ones we have. OnlyFans is far more exploitative than the average capitalist system. So nice try, but next time listen and try to understand what you're hearing.
Sure. Oh, can I go?
Yep.
Sure. Okay. So a couple of things. For one, when it comes to OnlyFans, it's for one, you can't just take the full metric of OnlyFans and how many and what percentage of the top 1% are the ones getting all of the money, because it's not very relevant, because a lot of OnlyFans is not porn at all. A lot of the original marketing of OnlyFans is for just celebrities, and there are a bunch of celebrities on there that paid basically as just like a mini Twitter. Honestly,
why would that matter? Who cares what the industry is?
Because we're saying OnlyFans customers, that
I'm
includes
still
non-porn
talking.
customers.
From your perspective, any industry where the top 1% of the earners should be problematic.
No, that's my perspective, not his.
I didn't say that. I never said that. I think all systems are always going to be unequal to some degree. That's just kind of like how the world works. So we can try to mitigate it as much as we can, but it's always going to be unequal. That's just kind of how it works. Some people are just going to simply be more popular than others. That's just, it just happens. That's okay. That's fine. But when it comes to that, I'm sorry, like Bella Thorne or and I don't know very many rich people. John Cena is probably going to get more OnlyFans subscribers than like Sarah, who works at Target. Okay, that's fine. Also, I don't know what's wrong with supplementing your income simply. Like, I think supplementing your income is actually pretty great. You being able to pick up more hobbies, you being able to possibly even quit a job and have a little bit of money built up to go do something else. In the quit, have like that 3-6 month window where you have income built up and go do something else is actually pretty cool. I think that's a great thing for people to be able to do, and they don't even have to post like hardcore porn to be able to get there. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I do think that there needs to be more parity, and I do think that OnlyFans does need to do more work. Also, you mentioned things like safety in OnlyFans. The customers don't control OnlyFans TOS. Like on Twitch, like I could imagine like if let's just even talk about like Twitter. Like is like using Twitter something bad now because like Elon Musk can have complete access to everybody's DMs and basically do whatever he wants now. Elon Musk literally via TOS, he literally owns everybody's DMs. You better delete that stuff.
You're arguing a straw man. I didn't say that.
Well, go ahead and explain. I'm sorry.
One second. I just want
what I said was
Rachel. I hate doing this to you again. I just want to redirect, so it'll give you a chance to say exactly what you're going to say, Rachel. But then I do want to be sure that we return to the consumers of OnlyFans, rather than talking too much about so many of the girls or guys, whoever's on OnlyFans, that only make like $8 a month or whatever. But so just to bring it back right after your comment, Rachel.
Right. So the reason I brought up that data was to show that for people who want equality and equity in the world, for them to be sitting here defending a highly unequal and unequitable platform where people's personal data is I wasn't talking about TOS. I was talking about the fact that the simps or the users of the platform provide this huge market of demand that most people don't really profit much from, but at the same time, it's presented as safer than traditional sex work, which has not necessarily proven to be true. And there have been massive data leaks. People can take screenshots, people can screen record your content, post it anywhere. You never get that back. You can't put the shit back in the horse. So it's a highly exploitative system. It's marketed to the youngest, most vulnerable, most desperate girls as something that's safe when it's not. So for people who build their entire online persona around wanting equity and safety and, a good life for everyone, for them to defend this is indefensible.
Before we go any further on, in particular, the models of OnlyFans, one person actually did ask a question in the live chat that is pertinent. Deej says, can we agree on what the definition of harm is by these consumers? So in what way are they harming, whether it be the models or themselves or somebody else?
We can't agree to a definition of harm. For them, likely the definition of harm is something like suffering.
So you're saying but how do you measure that then? What's
I want to know
how do you draw the direct line?
I want to know what you value. You both like consider yourselves Christians. I want to know what you like value in this situation. Or a Catholic? Is that correct?
Or Orthodox.
So yeah, like in this situation, what do you value? What do you call harm? I guess from a secular perspective, because I don't feel like any of us need to be in a. It's very
simple. Anything that steps outside of Christian ethics, which is a mix of deontological and virtue ethics. So everything that's outside
the Bible mentions
okay, so one more time before you cut in, Maddie, since you asked me a direct question, I'd like to answer it. What was asked is, how do we decide what's harmful, or in other words, what's bad? We know what's bad because if it steps outside of our ethical system, it's bad. If it's within the framework of that ethical system, it's good. Same as yours, right? You focus on some type of utilitarian purview, I'm guessing. So anything that increases harm is bad, and anything that decreases harm is good.
Okay, that's good. Is there
You have to
literally
define.
Wait, Maddie. Wait.
Sorry,
I already defined
I know.
it.
Wait.
I already told you
right.
what we consider harm to be.
Okay, is there literally anything else to it?
No, there's nothing else to it for your system either.
Oh, I'm just asking. When
I'm just telling you.
Okay, when I think about harm, I'm talking about, yeah, you're right, like suffering, somebody getting hurt, something bad happening to them. Then okay, I just want to know if there's any way I could possibly reach you in any way, shape, or form. In this discussion.
Well, this is the problem. Well, this is the problem. When we have a discussion like this, we have to grant your worldview in order to have the argument. Because
so are you gonna do that then?
Because you don't understand.
Is that what you're doing?
One more time, let me finish. You don't actually understand our worldview, right? You have no conceptualization of the ontological ethics or virtue ethics, but we understand utilitarianism inside and out.
But you understand.
So we have to grant your worldview. We have no choice because you can't understand anything outside of that.
Oh, got it.
Well, I mean, thanks for letting me in. Anyways, you all said,
Maddie, hang on. Since Maddie's being snarky,
is harm when not Christian?
Hey, Maddie,
snark is her personality.
Yeah, hey, Maddie, can you tell me since you guys just don't. We're not smart enough to understand your worldview. Maddie, what is our worldview?
I've literally never said that. First of all,
what's our worldview, Maddie?
I've never even commented on your intelligence, which is
what's our worldview?
I've never claimed to understand your worldview.
Right. So then I was right.
But I'm also not so up my own asshole that I proclaim to know anyone else's worldview.
Well, that's because you're not smart enough to be smart.
No, it's because I'm not up my own asshole.
You're not smart enough to be smart.
It's because I'm not up my own asshole.
No, you're just not smart
Maddie,
enough.
do you think we haven't debated utilitarian ethics like 50,000 times by now? This is what we do.
Sure, that's good. But with all of this, I actually don't care. So you all said that you all said that you all had information to prove that it is harmful in our worldview. In the real world, it causes real world harm to human beings.
Oh wait, no, our worldview is the real world.
Okay, my bad. That was wrong turn of phrase. I'll take it back. In our way that we view the world, you said that you have information to prove or to show or to correlate that there is harm that we would recognize as harm. Can you tell me what that is? And we can talk about it one by one.
You mean you want us to go through a listing of everything that we think you would consider to be harm, and then weigh it, and then we're going to weigh that against the good points, just like I said you wanted to do?
Well, okay.
Right?
Okay. I mean, listen. I just want to talk about if it's like true or not that harm does exist, or that conceptualization of harm does exist, right? Because if I think like stepping on my dog's tail is harm, and you think like not taking your dog to the park is harm, right? Like something along those lines. It would be important to understand that.
Then you run into a lot of epistemology issues with that, right?
Okay.
So this is the whole problem with this, but. Don't worry, we will go into your studies and your metadata, and we'll go through this to make you happy, right? I'm just saying that you have no moral grounding, no moral foundation. You have absolutely nothing from which to even bring an argument, right? You don't even understand the conceptualization where we come from, or what we mean when we say virtues, and what we mean when we say that we follow a completely different ethical system than yours, which is just as valid. But you only want to use these metrics because you live inside of an echo chamber where that's what everybody does.
Okay, bud. I mean, you don't know my life at all, but thank you for trying to,
listen. About Twitch politics.
Listen, buddy. If I need somebody to help write my biography,
look here, buddy.
I'll have to.
Rachel.
I have to hire you. Listen. Rachel. I mean, I don't like to use a lot of words lab coats came up with to try to figure out how the world works. When you, I guess, got mad at what I was talking about, and when I guess I called you baby brain. What I was talking about is not simply using intuition as a part of how you figure out something. We all use we all start from somewhere. We all feel something, and then we figure out. And then I would imagine that after that, we would like to figure out what's actually true or not by like trying to test it out in the real world. Does our intuition comport with like the real world?
Most of the sociological studies in which you want to go over today, are they measurements of intuition?
Are they measurements?
How do you define intuition? Like, are you just defining it as feelings?
So if somebody asks you,
could extend that to definitions pretty
Maddie,
broadly.
I'll help Maddie. So Maddie, if
Wonderful.
somebody says, do you think that this is good or bad? And they ask you for no justification and you say it's bad, that's your intuition.
But so anytime you make any sort of judgment call on whether something is good or bad, all of that is intuition.
Yes,
if
Maddie.
that changes based on the
right.
data. So that's interesting because a lot of times we define or like we make those decisions based on other inputs, right? Because are you only making those decisions based on? Yes, you do.
In fact, most of the time,
you do.
Most of the time in sociology,
like you know how we know that lead paint is bad?
What?
Because we had data to suggest that it was causing harm.
And so
do you
when you
not
asked
understand
a person,
that it wasn't intuition.
So when you ask,
it.
So Maddie, I'm going to try to help you out here. So if you ask a person,
oh my God, thank you so much,
who ate lead paint, point to the spot where it hurts. They go, oh, it hurts right here. They don't ask them if they have a foundation for why it hurts. They don't ask them why they have the belief that it hurts. They just point and say, "Oh, it hurts." And so
is that how you think they discovered?
So the little guy on his little clipboard says, "It thing hurts," and this is how they do that type of data collection. Same thing with most sociological studies.
That's how you think they discovered that lead was poisonous?
No, don't be ridiculous. What I'm trying to point out to you is that most sociological studies are measuring people's intuitions. They're not asking for their motivations. Rather seeing how they react, not the motivations behind why they stop necessarily at the red light. It's more important to them to know that they do. Most people don't give.
They absolutely ask for motivations.
Most people don't give justifications. Most people. Okay, well here, Maddie, let me give you a great example of this. Can you justify for me why you go to work?
Why I go to work?
Yeah.
So you want me to give you the rationale? I mean, there's a number of reasons.
Not the rationale.
Yo, can we please stop this?
Like this seems so dumb. Yeah, like this is really like this has nothing to do with OnlyFans customers.
Right. So again, grant our worldview, and then if we decide to go into why we think your worldview is wrong, the first thing you do is pivot and go, we don't want to talk about that. Please talk about empirics. Please talk about empirics. For the love of God, talk about empirics. It's all we know. But you won't actually get into your own worldviews.
No, so here's the thing. Like you got on me for being like, oh, thinking bad and like the whole baby brain thing. All I was saying is that just like using simply intuition when you come to conclusions in the world can sometimes lead you to pretty bad decisions.
Well,
can sometimes be like that.
I think I can help sort this out a little bit and move it along.
I guess I really wanted to talk about what you brought up when it came to like the hierarchy in because I don't think we finished that. I think we got derailed.
Right. So
but
what Andrew is saying is that you guys want a granted worldview where everything is figured out empirically, whereas we would say that doesn't tell you, you can't get an ought from an is. I'm sure you guys have heard that, right? You've heard the phrase, you can't get an ought from an is.
The is ought gap.
So we could present a bunch of data and we could say, well, how does this data tell us what we ought do? And you guys would say harm. And we would say the logical extension of that argument is, why not put everybody in a vat, hook them up to pleasure sensors, give them opiates, give them, scientifically using whatever technology we have, just put everybody in a vat and give them permanent pleasure, right? Just nothing has meaning, nothing has value. There's no virtues, there's no morals. We just feel pleasure and there's no harm, right? Why not do that under your worldview? Therefore, we dismiss this type of worldview because it doesn't take into account why we ought to do anything. And this is essentially a moral claim we're making, whether this is a good or bad, harmful or not, right? So we can go over the empirics, but what Andy is saying is, even granted that, it doesn't tell us what we ought do in the world. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's perfectly fine. This I could. Okay. Let's just go back to what we were talking about.
You sound very flustered.
I was thinking about responding to the whole "why don't we put people in a vat" thing, but I didn't want to get derailed again. So I just wanted to. So that's I was thinking. My brain runs faster than my mouth. It's a part of the ADHD. But the whole like hierarchy thing. I mean, I just there's always
what
going
hierarchy thing. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Oh, when you were talking about like how only some people actually make a living wage. But that's like also leaving out how many people are actually trying to make a living wage, or how many people actually need to make a living wage off of OnlyFans, right? Did you ever,
Maybe,
ponder
but
that?
couldn't we apply that to the entire economy as a whole, and then all the socialist and communist economics gets thrown out the window? I mean, can't we just say that about, well, maybe the person's only making minimum wage at McDonald's because they're not really trying, and maybe they don't need to make a good living. I mean, can't we apply that to your whole worldview and then just wipe it out?
It's fascinating. Sorry. It's just fascinating that like the conversation tends to steer towards trying to discredit like a worldview or that, but they are avoiding talking about OnlyFans customers as a whole. You seem to be circumventing what this actual debate's supposed to be about, because I don't think you have a real foundation of an argument. Yeah, you're right. I have no idea what a debate is. I have no idea what I'm doing here. Who am I?
I'm supposed to question your grounding. Am I supposed to question your grounding?
But it's interesting that you do that while completely skirting the points that we're making about the value of being an OnlyFans
We're not skirting them, but
it's just very interesting.
Maddie, hang on. What's the debate topic, Maddie?
What's the debate topic? Are you like, okay, first of all, don't fucking condescending me. Second of all, like,
I can't help myself. What's the debate?
You can't help yourself.
I can't.
Are you saying you have a compulsion disorder?
I do. I have to.
All right,
you would just tell him not to be condescending. That's funny.
I have to treat thoughts a certain way. So again, if you'd help me out here, Maddie, can you tell me what's the debate topic?
The debate topic is, do OnlyFans customers create harm?
Right. And so what's harm?
What's harm?
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of what we were discussing earlier. We were trying to come to a foundation.
Right.
What do you mean
by any? No, I'm saying, okay, so there's many types of harm. I'm sorry. Harm is when not Christian, apparently. Is that correct?
Well, wait. Well, I mean, yes.
Is that correct?
But that aside, while that may be a
so harm is not Christian.
I'm
guessing you've never thrown a pigskin football around, right?
Let me just ask you again.
Christianity doesn't love that.
Just real quick, because this is really important. If we don't agree with your definition of harm, which you haven't given yet, how can we even proceed into having a debate, Maddie?
Well, it's interesting because I'm the one arguing that it's not causing harm. So you're kind of asking me to prove a negative. Whereas if you are saying that it is harmful, then
Maddie,
the onus is on you to define what harm is. And we told you, you're asking me what the definition of harm is. Okay, there needs to be, there's a number of metrics. That there's harm based on, let's say, psychological, right? Where we're talking about like, okay, it's if you're making the argument that it's leading to addiction issues, and that specifically because they are subscribed to OnlyFans, and that is what is driving the addiction, whatever, then that would be a metric. That would be a metric with which you could measure harm.
Yeah, well, what's the definition of harm, though, so that we know what we're measuring?
Do you want me to link you the dictionary? Do you not have Google?
I just want you to tell me so that we know what we're operating.
Your ignorance knows
you
no
asked
bounds.
for a definition of harm. At the beginning, you said, can we please define what harm is? You asked for the definition of harm, and now you're like,
since I've learned that harm means when not Jesus. Harm means when not Jesus. And thank you.
Okay. Well,
I can tell you must have gotten that definition from your very extensive research.
Well, wait.
So now you don't want to define harm.
No, it's fine. If she defines harm as not being Jesus, then we have won the debate.
Yeah, because Jesus loves you guys.
Okay, so
what do you got, Shark?
So with all this, I think I think we can come to like I think we can come at it like this. Like generally, I think your average person would understand harm to be something along the lines of damage, injury to not being able to do something that you wanted to, or something out of your control that impedes something that you were looking to do. Typically, is how people would consider that to be harm. Pain, suffering could also be under that definition. So obviously, you could harm somebody by making them feel distress, emotional distress. You could harm somebody by shooting them. You could harm people in many different ways. So this would be like typical harm.
I'm glad that you finally defined harm, because now, based on what you just said, I want to ask.
You seem glad.
Are you in favor of a lot of the measures that were taken during the global events of the last couple of years, which a lot of people thought were causing them suffering, distress, preventing them from doing things they wanted to do, like leave the house, go to work, run their business.
I would say the people that died from
practice
COVID probably
bodily
felt more
autonomy and
distressed.
choose what things go into their body and what things don't. So if you define harm that way, then are you like a pure anarchist or a libertarian, like a really strong libertarian because you don't want these restrictions?
I would say the people that died from COVID probably would feel differently about if we totaled up
Well, how do
like,
you know
the
they're
harm
dead?
done. That's a very good argument,
that's-
Andrew. Thank you.
No,
for pointing
we
that
can
out.
then say, okay, so you are saying that sometimes it's worth it to restrict certain behaviors and make policy decisions that restrict certain behaviors if we can prove that they are harmful under what Chris just said.
Is your correlation a deadly virus to OnlyFans?
No, I'm saying, are you in favor of preventing people from doing certain things and taking away certain liberties, enforcing certain behaviors and restricting others under the guise of preventing harm?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
When the
Got
harm
it.
is tangible and like definable, and in the case of a global pandemic, a once in a lifetime pandemic, yeah, I would say that succinctly falls under that category.
Right. So all of the stuff I listed in the beginning, not sure if Maddie heard what I said, but I think Chris heard what I said, where we're talking about how, women are joining OnlyFans at a very young age. A lot of them the people who do the sex work, they're very young. The median age, I think, was like 21.2 years old. It's really young.
Oh, it's
And the
illegal.
average consumer of that content is like 35. So we have this market of older men and this creators being these really young, vulnerable girls who haven't built life skills, who haven't built any sort of safety nets for themselves. They may not have gotten married. They don't have an education or a career. They're doing this not because it's been their dream to make $180 online every month, showing everyone their bits and pieces, but usually because they need the money, right? So would we say that this is exploitative of those people? Because normally I feel like you guys would want to protect those people, wouldn't you?
No one's forcing them to go to OnlyFans, just like no one's forcing someone to drive for Uber, just like no one's forcing someone to take any job. So I would say if they're of consenting age and they're making that informed decision for themselves to do whatever they want to do on OnlyFans, no, I don't have a problem with that.
Would you say the same thing about
I
heroin?
want to, just before we go further with this, I do want to redirect us, just because we've talked so much about the content creators of OnlyFans, in terms of the potential harm caused by the consumers.
We're there right now.
That's
We're there
what
right now.
that's what I'm talking about. James. I'm
So
saying
when we're
this is-
talking about the addiction aspect for the consumer, would you say the same exact thing for heroin?
For what? Can you restate? I just want to make sure I heard you.
Yeah,
right.
what do you
so
mean?
before
if they're
before
informed adults,
right,
they
if
can
they're
do
informed
heroin.
adults and they've consented to do heroin, it's cool, right?
What do you mean by cool? Do
I
you
mean,
mean
you're
like I
fine
should
with
throw
it.
them
Should
in
be
jail?
legally
You're
permitted.
fine with it.
I think it should be legally permitted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
Right.
you should like throw somebody in jail for using heroin. No.
So
And
what
we
if
I
should
don't
have
wanna
a market for
criminalize
it. We should have a
addiction. I don't
market
think
for
there's-
that, just like OnlyFans.
Have a market for heroin?
yeah.
I think it's when it comes to heroin, I feel like it's so fundamentally different, and other like substances that people take, they're fundamentally different than a lot of other things, like even possibly gambling, porn as well. That they should be legal, but I think they should be restricted. And I think they should come with clear markets from people who are the companies who are the ones like providing the platform for that to tell people what they're getting into, and they should be held legally responsible for that.
Okay, so just to back this up, I want to make sure I get this right.
Sure.
Heroin, you think that heroin use, there should be a market for it. Is that
No.
correct?
I no.
No. You didn't
No.
say, you didn't just say that there should be.
No. There should
No,
not be a
saying
market
that
for
you're not
heroin.
gonna-
But if we're speaking about the customers or the people who have heroin or heroin doers,
Mhm.
they should not be held like they should not be the
Criminally.
state should not like come in and like fuck their shit
So
up.
if there was no OnlyFans, there would be no simps to get addicted to pornography on OnlyFans, right, Chris?
No, he's saying that you don't need to criminalize.
Yeah, I know what he said.
Criminalizing something.
Okay, no, that here. Sure. If there was no OnlyFans, there wouldn't be anybody on OnlyFans. That's true.
Right. So you wouldn't create a market for heroin because of that addiction. Yep. Why would you create a market for people to become addicted to OnlyFans?
Well, it's not. Well, for one, it's not as addictive or anywhere near addictive. And honestly, the jury is out on if it's addictive at all.
Wait. How do you know?
It's true, though. Should we not have a market for sugar?
Yeah. So how do you know? How do you know?
Or like, should we not have a market for alcohol?
How do you know if it's not as addictive, Chris?
How do I know it's not addictive? It's common sense.
Oh, it's common sense.
It's common sense.
It's his intuition.
Anybody knows
this. It's his intuition. So yep. I did notice when I had watched your kind of revamp of me earlier that you were going to use the argument of intuition, but you have to use intuition with foundation. You don't understand what intuition is.
Sure.
So what's the foundation for your intuition, or do you have one?
My foundation.
No.
Okay.
I was raised Catholic, so.
My foundation for this intuition is specifically that porn and viewing something is fundamentally different when we're talking about grown adults than taking a substance. It does different things to your brain because you're not putting something literally in your body.
But it is addictive.
Unfortunately for you, I have to refute that because you are incorrect according to the science that you guys want to follow. There's a wonderful website called yourbrainonporn.com, which has a ton of citations of studies.
That sounds
books.
Unbiased.
No, it may be, but they're peer-reviewed studies. They're well-cited books. Wait, these are peer-reviewed studies. These are well-cited books. Okay.
Do I?
So, you guys want to hear this or no? Or are we just going to? Okay. So
he does.
This is a book that was written by an expert on neurology and neuroplasticity. His name is Norman Doidge. You guys might even have heard of him. I've heard of him before. He has a book called The Brain That Changes Itself. And he did a ton of research and looking at the metadata for pornography. And he said, the content of pornography is a dynamic phenomenon that perfectly illustrates the progress of an acquired taste. 30 years ago, hardcore pornography usually meant the explicit depiction of intercourse between two partners and, looking at genitals and whatnot, right? And then softcore stuff was softcore stuff. But now you can get this everywhere with high-speed internet. There's sites all over the internet that don't check your age. You don't have to in any way prove that you're an adult who knows what you're consuming, but even among adults who consume it, they know that the brain is highly neuroplastic when it comes to sexuality. And in my book, I did some research on a guy who, this was a horrible person, an MK Ultra doctor who put electrodes in people's brains and tried to convert them from being gay. And unfortunately, he was successful. So he would provide heterosexual stimulus and then zap certain parts of the brain, completely rewired what these people's tastes were. But you don't have to implant electrodes. We can see the effects now with people who have porn addictions. They start with a little bit of viewership with something pretty normal. Over time, that stimulus doesn't do the same thing. So they get on to worse things, crazier things, different fetishes and things like that. And before you know it, they're incapable of having a normal sexual experience with another person without this stimulus. And 10% of all adults in the United States say that they have had a porn addiction that has significantly affected their life. So we do know that this is a problem people struggle with and that it does affect them. And we have studies and we have books and we have empirical evidence from 10% of the population who says this crippled them. So what do you guys say to that?
Sure. Here's the amazing thing, right? Because simply because you say something happened does not mean it actually did. So when researchers have actually looked into porn and
brilliant refutation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Finish.
Because that was literally all that I was saying. You got me. Would you like to respond to that? Okay. Very cool. Yeah.
Respond to what? You haven't said anything.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised you started speaking.
Well, you made a declarative statement that was obviously incorrect.
We were fascinated that you started speaking.
It's just.
Oh no, I want to hear him refute. I want to hear his evidence. I want to hear him refute my evidence.
Go ahead, Chart.
Sure. When researchers have looked into porn and what they seem to and what they would like to see is what they would look into, which would be like porn addiction. They found out a bunch of really interesting things. One thing was that they were not able to find that people's brains and people who specifically called themselves problematic porn users to react differently to erotic stimuli compared to the general population and people who typically just watch porn even semi-frequently. They weren't able to find that. They weren't able to find things that like markers that would say that this person is actually addicted. They weren't able to find any causative links between the porn that they were watching or any porn that they would be consuming whatsoever in grown adults to changes in their brain structure or brain responses to erotic stimuli at all. What they were able to find is that people who tend to have compulsive habitual disorders can gravitate to many different things. It seems like there's no real difference between somebody who seems to who seems to has a problem like getting to work, or it's impairing their life, or they claim that they have like a porn actually like harmed them in some way. It seems like this person could have easily gotten onto like they could have easily gotten onto another vice, and that compulsivity of them makes them no different than like somebody who walks into a room and has to flip the light switch on and off 3 times or something along those lines. It's not the porn that actually did this to them.
What? So wait, so you're saying that if the porn wasn't there, they would have just been addicted to something else?
Yes, and something that would be worse.
Yeah. Okay, and what do you think would be worse, the flicking the light switch on 3 times, or the fact that your brain has been slowly hardwired to watch progressively more and more hardcore pornography?
That's just not true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm looking at another study right here that directly contradicts everything you just said. It says that the people who organized this 2018 study found that porn scenes, like addictive substances, are hyper-stimulating triggers that lead to unnaturally high levels of dopamine secretion. This can damage the dopamine reward system and leave it unresponsive to natural sources of pleasure. This is why users begin experiencing difficulty in achieving arousal with a physical partner. And then it goes on to show other measurements that they found in the brain with scans and other behavioral issues that they found in the people they studied. So I guess I can tell you the name, I could drop my links in the chat and we could go over them, but it seems like I'm finding stuff that directly contradicts what you're saying.
Well, that's crazy. I'm finding stuff that can directly contradicts what you're saying. It's almost like you can almost find whatever you want out there.
Oh my God.
So there is no empirical truth. So there is no way to use data to find the truth of what's going on
This
here.
is wild for you to jump from there you can find information that supports you to there is no empirical truth in the world.
You said it sounds like we can find whatever we want out there. You're the one that's
that's your statement.
It's true. You can.
By the way, help me out here then. If we can't settle this because you're just going to reject our data and yield to yours, though you haven't even seen ours. Let me just ask you
didn't see mine, so
send it.
Well,
she just asked you multiple times.
We would love if you could. No, she asked if she could send hers.
Yeah, we'll send ours to you.
Okay.
But also, while you're doing that, yours. Can you answer to the question of why you think simp?
What?
Why do you think men?
He's saying why is it good? Like advocate for why it's helpful.
I never said it was good.
That.
It's not good. So what is it?
I don't know. It seems neutral.
Neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what? So what does the threshold need to be to get over neutrality? 51% bad to 49% good?
Yeah, baby.
I don't know.
That's what I've been waiting.
I don't know how you measure like that. Honestly, you just have to.
You don't know how you measure what's good or bad in your own worldview.
I don't know how you measure.
It's Jesus.
I don't know how you measure like a social interaction by specific units to figure out what's 51 and what's 49. No.
You mean like utils?
Sure.
Yeah,
that's a
sure. So what do you think utils are made of?
I have a master's in economics.
But anyway,
I have a master's in economics, so
well, go for that.
They use different metrics. They use different sliding scales and metrics to estimate utility And usually that utility metric is based on aggregate a number of different inputs because they're trying to evaluate overall wellness.
We're talking about utils in the abstract, right? So utils in this case would be something that if you have X amount of utils, if you have 51 utils and 49 things that are not utils, then you would go with the 51% of utility. So if you can't,
thank you for clearing that up.
If you can't describe for us in any way why you, at what empirical dividing line would there be for you to change your mind? What would it take?
In general, do you think porn should be outlawed entirely?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Why is that
Do you
interesting?
think no matter what, because it just shows your own bias on this and how like you are starting from the foundation. You start from the foundation that porn is inherently bad, is inherently amoral, but that's only within your personal moral framework. That's not within the larger framework that we work around, because there are plenty of things that happen in day-to-day life.
Framework do you think
There's plenty of things. Let me finish and maybe you'll be illuminated.
Like
there's plenty of things that happen or that are legal that aren't necessarily going to align with your moral framework.
That's true.
But they're not illegal. And so, like, for example, alcohol. Should alcohol be outlawed?
No.
Why?
Well, it depends. What do you mean by outlawed? As in nobody could ever have any ever
Should the consumption and production of alcohol be banned?
No.
Why?
Because clearly people are able to responsibly drink, and God says it's okay.
So they're responsibly drink, but there are tons of drunk driving accidents, and people have died. And people have died from drunk driving, and then people have also died from liver failure because they become addicted to it. So why?
But God says it's okay.
So your only rationale, then, your entire rationale for why it should be legal is because it's specifically mentioned in the Bible. Not all alcohol, mind you, just wine.
Why?
So
well, wait a second.
That is why it should be.
That's the first
permitted, right?
First and foremost, you're wrong about only wine being mentioned. That's one. Two.
What else is mentioned?
Whatever I decide to base my moral system on, even if the entirety of it is based.
Did Jesus do Jaeger shots?
Literally around what I think God says is okay.
I knew
it doesn't matter. It's a fine grounding. What now? When I ask you, you ask me, why should alcohol stay legal? Well, God says it's okay as long as you're not a drunkard. Okay, so we can say that that's legal. Now, why do you think that simping is a good thing? Why do you think that?
Didn't God also say that you should love thy neighbor? I
answered your question. Answer mine.
Does God also, because God has said a lot of things. Well, I'm curious because you said your first point was that other alcohol was mentioned in the Bible. What other alcohol is mentioned?
Maddie, it's totally beside the point.
Justifying.
Are you not? Anything. You're not. So you're not going to substantiate that.
You need to justify.
But like you're basing your entire moral framework.
Same time. What have you got, Maddie?
What have you got?
Yeah, I was saying, if you're going to base your entire moral framework on one book, on the Bible, on Christianity, then when you're saying, listen, I'm not done. Like, if you're going to do that, and then so I make a point saying, okay, well, within your personal moral framework, should alcohol be illegal? And you say no because it's in the Bible, and I say no, but only a specific kind of alcohol is available in the Bible.
No, I didn't say
should vodka be illegal?
It's in the Bible. They never said it was in the Bible. It's because it was in the Bible.
So, but you did say that.
No,
you said it's because it's mentioned in the Bible and God likes it.
No,
and how would you know if God likes it unless it's in the Bible?
You brought up the Bible.
How else would you know if God likes something?
But you have to stop speaking.
Or does he speak to you?
Whenever you decide that you're going to stop speaking. I know that's got to be hard for you, but I'll try. We have a church tradition, which is 2,000 years old. And we adhere to that church tradition. You might know this if you knew anything about Orthodoxy.
Based on?
The church tradition's not based on the Bible. The church wrote the Bible.
No. They did.
The Bible's just incidental for the first 300 and some years of Christianity.
So it's just the Bible's just incidental.
No,
it's just like a fun how-to guide.
Maddie, It's very important, but it is not what Orthodox Christianity is. That's a Protestant thing. It's only 500 years old.
This meme
So
is very real.
roll your eyes and giggle, but you don't
I'm
know
not
what you're talking
Protestant,
about.
though. I'm
So are you going to
Catholic.
justify your worldview?
Well, then you should
at all?
already know this, Maddie.
Maybe stop putting on lipstick long enough to make a point or justify your
You should wear, if you wore lipstick, we could see your lips.
Oh,
There's
Lord.
nothing wrong with my lips.
Not
But
saying there is.
what is your argument? Do you have an argument?
Oh, were you not listening?
Listen, I can't comment on
all
one
you've
This
done
is
is
so.
so-
This is so dumb.
I feel bad for
And
your
not
partner.
about-
Honestly,
Thank you.
he's trying.
Might
He's
be.
trying.
Wait, me
to
or her
have
husband?
An actual debate, and you're being a snark queen.
Well,
and a
if
pain in
we
the
if
ass.
we
I wanna
ever
hear
get
from
married,
Shark.
we can work on that.
Go ahead, Shark.
Oh, sure.
think you
Well,
had
they
something.
were. I have nothing to comment on this specifically. They were talking about Christianity. I don't think we should touch on that. There's no reason to talk about it.
Go.
We can't.
True, that'd be totally off
Even-
topic. We do want to go to our special feature where we poll the audience on what subtopic they'd most like to hear you guys talk about. So this is fun. The number one chosen one was, do OnlyFans customers harm society more broadly somehow?
Oh, sure. I can talk on that. I would say no, they don't harm society more broadly. I guess we can talk about specific here. I'll talk to you, the Rachel Andrew family, Wilson family. Do you would you like to talk about more like porn broadly, or just specifically just talk about OnlyFans? Like porn customers, you're a porn consumer, you're the booty consumer, something like that, or just like OnlyFans specifically?
I'm fine with porn. I mean, I've got a ton of data on porn in general and what it does to the consumer. But I think you could make just a very basic argument that maybe will get us somewhere here.
Sure. I just want to know exactly if you were
sure.
okay with
So,
that. I didn't
like-
want to take you in a direction you weren't comfortable with.
No,
I love
yeah,
consent.
I think you said you don't think they cause any harm, but I think they cause harm to themselves and society at large. We're facing catastrophic
This meme
collapse
is very
of
real.
birth rates in almost every country in the world. There's only a couple of places in the world where that's
This
not
meme is
happening
very
right
real.
now. In the United States, it's been really terrible for the economy. It forces a lot of mass migration because people are getting married less and they're having a lot less children.
And this is all because of porn. If we removed porn, this would be fixed.
No, porn is a contributing factor because it removes any sort of motivation, right? Everything you do policy wise, I think you guys would agree, you're either encouraging or discouraging behavior. You're either reinforcing or discouraging some kind of behavior. That's why we make public policy.
This meme is very real.
So to have free ubiquitous amounts of porn on the internet that kids can see at the age of 11 on average, it does rewire the brain. I dropped a study in the chat. I have more. I don't want to like just drop 20 studies in the chat because you guys aren't going to have time to like go through them all. But this is a thing. We know that it removes men's desire to really go out there and try and find a wife and have a family. They see no reason not to just sit there and fap to somebody for $8 a month or whatever. And they have this parasocial relationship. This is why we see young men in Japan don't date. Young men here don't date. We have this incel problem, right? Where young men, the real world dating is tough. It's hard. You get rejected.
So true.
You
I'm
have to
single.
compete. You have to compete with other men. It's very tough. So it's like when you put this seeming answer to that problem in front of them for just a few dollars a month, why not do that, right? But is that going to be good for society overall, or is it going to deteriorate the whole social structure and impact the economy and impact people very personally because they don't leave their house? They stay online and have parasocial relationships instead of real world ones.
Yeah, so this kind of ties back. I was thinking about responding to it, but I decided not to get off track. But I can kind of touch on that to touch on this as well. The whole like, why don't we just put everybody in like a tube and give them heroin and everything? For one, that may not be what they want, and because of doing that, that'd be harm. And two, because there's value in experiences. I think there's value in having an experience, and I think there's value in doing something
Those
and
are
being there for
experiences.
the actual experience of what we're talking about.
Well, those
Not-
are experiences. I don't know what you're
you
talking
are
about.
when you're watching porn, that is an experience. I'm talking about the experience of having sex. You said there.
No. You were
you're-
talking about tubes and you know, if people were all plugged up to heroin and this and that, you think that there's some validation there due to experience, but that is an experience.
It is an experience.
And they're
like I
enjoying that
said,
experience.
they wouldn't they may not want to be a part of that experience, especially if you do it without their consent.
If they did want to be a part of that experience, you would be okay with that, right?
If somebody really wants to simply just be hooked up to like a heroin tube and then drink like Mountain Dew and do all that, I don't think the state should step in and stop them. We can have, sure, okay, yep, that's true. I think that's a normal thing to say.
No, I don't think it is a normal thing to say.
Okay, yep, you can feel that way. I think like what would be far better and what a normal human being would honestly say is that, hey, you know what we should do? We should be like incentivizing these people to not want to do that by giving positive reinforcement and not negative reinforcement, like harming people.
Wait, that makes no sense. Why would you want to reinforce that they not do this behavior that you just said that they should be able to do?
Just because you should be able to doesn't mean that we should like always be doesn't mean that we shouldn't like, advise against it.
Yeah, okay, but in this particular case, you're saying if a person wants to be on a heroin drip all day long, get high as he wants, and is enjoying the hell out of the experience, that should be totally permissible. But at the same time, you're saying we should draw up incentives to not have people do that. Yep. Would one of those incentives maybe be that it would be illegal to do that?
No, because that doesn't actually reduce usage, and that doesn't actually reduce heroin addiction.
So,
oh no, it does.
Well,
so
it's not
making things
we can go even like, deeper than
that.
I would consider that to be. I think that'd be a little immoral to like take that option from someone. It is their person. It's their body.
Why would it be immoral to take that away from them?
It's their person. It's their body. They have free agency, and they should be able to do what they want without in the purview of what they do with their own body.
Man, that's a lot of presuppositions that you're putting down there. The first presupposition that you put down there is that they're free agents. What makes them free agents?
Do you not believe in free will?
I do, but what makes them free agents?
Free will, sapience.
Do you think that people should be free?
Sure.
And when you define freedom, freedom, is it unlimited?
No.
So you don't actually think people should be free?
Well, I mean, it's free asterisks.
What does that mean?
Well, as in there's conditions.
And what
if
are
you're
those
harming others?
And so those conditions you put on, how are you weighing them? You're weighing them against things that you consider preferable behavior against things you consider non-preferable behavior. True. Same exact thing that we weigh these things. So if you say, I don't want somebody to be addicted to heroin because that would be bad for them to be on a heroin drip all day, but I think that they should be able to do that. To me, it makes no sense. Why should they be able to do that if you're opposed to them doing that?
I can be opposed to somebody doing it, but still allow them to do it because it's their life and their choice.
But,
we can advise
so where do you
against
draw
it.
the moral parallel here?
You draw the moral between what? Can you explain?
Between when you ought to tell somebody not to do something versus when you should tell them to.
Well, do you mean simply just when I should tell them not to, or when I believe the state should step in and stop them?
Well, when anybody should step in. Anybody should step in.
Anybody should step in?
Any other agent.
Literally any other agent when there's a possibility of them getting hurt.
Yeah, but if they're on a heroin drip, do you think that's good for them?
I didn't say that. That's why I would advise against it.
Step in that point, right?
I believe that someone should be like, hey, bro, maybe not. Yeah. What's going on? You know?
Just not the state.
Yeah.
No.
Why not the state?
I think it's bad.
Why not the state?
I think it's bad.
You think it's bad,
yep.
But you still can't justify it.
Because increased criminalization has
but Maddie, if you think that if you think your friends should step in, but not the state, tell me what the distinction there is.
The distinction is that with the state stepping in, that is creating a criminalization. What criminalization does is it prevents that person from getting a good job later. It doesn't treat heroin usage or heroin addiction as a health crisis and only gets them into a constant cycle of incarceration. And that has not shown to be
so let's say
a viable deterrent.
The state, instead of incarcerating them, steps in and says something like, we're just not going to make heroin legal for people.
But what does that mean? So if someone's using heroin and it's not legal, does that mean that they are then going to jail? What is the mechanism here then with which the state is enforcing that?
Well, the state doesn't even need to enforce it. He was just talking about incentives, right? So at what point do you step in? Do you think that the state, that it's appropriate for the state to step in? I think that it's appropriate. If you were willing to tell a young girl,
what does that mean?
If you're willing to tell a young girl that you think that her OnlyFans career is bad, because they're a friend of yours, but you think that the state shouldn't be able to step in and say the exact same thing. Why do you think that the state shouldn't be able to?
Well, we're not saying that wait, Maddie, be careful. Be careful here. You may be walking into a trap. So we're not talking about the state not saying anything. Do you if you only mean Biden should be like, hey, think about going to college and not OnlyFans. I don't care. You're not talking about the state simply saying something. You're talking about the state criminalizing, getting into their lives, more involved than simply just talking.
So
we're talking about like an enforcement mechanism.
Perfect. That's exactly where I wanted this to go. So I have to ask you, if you had a friend of yours who was about to do one of these heroin drips and said, hey, look, Chris, I just really like this, right? And I'm going to do it, and you just need to respect my right to do that. Would you let him do that? Or would there ever occur to you to use any type of force to stop him from doing that?
Force?
Yeah.
You mean like beat him or something?
Well, I don't know. Like I might knock a needle out of a friend's hand before he shot up. Yeah.
Any amount of force whatsoever. The biggest thing for me would be like the state of mind and like knowing the person. If I could feel like this is like, and if I have somebody who I know is impulsive, bipolar, who can go on massive mood swings, and I know them personally like that, and I know this could like not be a real choice that they're actually making, but one of desperation of something else, then I would be like, that I may do something.
Hey, they're normal people. They're just addicts.
No, I would respect their agency, and like it sucks. And like, have you had any family members who have struggled with addiction?
Of course.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because so have I. And one of the things that's heartbreaking, and that anyone who has a family member, know what you have to do, because no one is going to get over addiction. Yeah, drugs are also not porn. Also, no one gets over an addiction unless they want to change, unless they recognize that there's a problem. And oftentimes it requires hitting rock bottom for them to then get that change and get the help they need. Also, I treat addiction like a health crisis, not like a reason to criminalize someone and to enforce. I mean, I know you love fascism, so you're all about authoritarianism and like making the state. I don't know where you came up with any daddy. Of that. I have no idea. It's not like it's your name on any platforms or anything. Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. So the name is. But the question was that. The question is that you're concerned about the enforcement mechanism versus providing guidance. If my parents named me Adolf. I probably say like would I instantly be a Nazi? I don't. Maybe. I mean, you might if the glove fits. Maybe. It's just silly. And by the way. Back to what you were saying, Chris, because I still don't really understand this.
Sure.
I'm trying. That's unsurprising. And I'm really trying to. Mm-hmm. So would you be willing, if your friend or family member was like a normal person, would you knock the needle out of their hand? Would you say, no, you're not doing this? Would you be willing to like pin them on the ground and say, no, I'm not going to let you hurt yourself?
I mean, if it's something like drug abuse, I'm not sure if that would be the correct situation. I would be there for them, but when it comes to like physical, because where do you go after that? Oh, I pinned them to the ground, got them. Would I keep them there for life? Would I lock them in my fucking basement?
What if they were going to kill themselves with a knife? Let's say, would you knock the knife out of their hand, or would you respect their decision?
In this case,
if they're about to kill themselves,
killing themselves and beating off are different.
Okay, so you guys keep saying this. Yes, apples and peaches are different. We know. But if you want to draw an analogy, you find something that's similar to the thought process so that you can understand how a person would react in that thought process. And if it matches this one, Maddie.
Do you recognize that there's a difference between drug abuse and drug use?
Yes. Wait, Maddie. Okay, so I think
go for it, sure. Yeah.
So when they're sitting here and they go, oh, but different things are different. We understand that. What they're saying is what they're baking into the question is more like, oh, we think it's close enough. The problem with us is we don't think it's close enough to actually make that analogy and that comparison. And
wait, you know, a person who's strapped to heroin is going to die from.
Sure.
You're saying if someone ties themselves to the railroad tracks, would you untie them?
So if I say if somebody's about to kill themselves with a knife,
well, once again, I was talking about the comparison. What I was talking about the comparison to like
could be an apt comparison. You give me one. What would be an apt comparison?
I don't have the time or the crayon.
Right? Yes, I don't know.
Than heroin and killing yourself, but I do think these things are so fundamentally different. It's very hard to draw like a really good analogy that would work here.
My question,
because the thing is, I would answer this question,
fatal.
and then you would ask me the question about the same thing about porn. Like if we're going to bring it back to like the actual debate topic, and then I would say no, and then you'd be confused. But the reason you'd be confused is because I don't believe that they're similar enough to make a reasonable analogy here. So we can keep doing this if you want, but it wouldn't really help the actual situation.
Okay.
If it's okay with you guys, because I think Andrew made a pretty good point about that they don't. It's very hard to pit. It's like trying to nail Jello to a wall to figure out like, yes, they're perfectly fine with the state intervening to do with the stuff that they like, but not the stuff that we like. And they can't exactly tell you why. It's just some vague concept of harm. But Shark and I both dropped our studies in the chat here.
Sure.
And I looked over his while we were sitting here. And it's very interesting that he thinks this supports his claim because they talk at length about 2016 MRI research, how you can see the difference in brain scans between porn viewers, what their emotional motivation is, what the problematic behaviors are that are associated, even structural differences in the brains of these people. And that some of them who are addicts are primed for addiction. Just like we know this is how it is with alcohol and drugs. Some people can have a couple beers, they're fine. Some people can't. Some people can do a little coke on the weekend a few times when they're like 25 and never do it again. Some people end up with crippling addictions. It's like that with everything. And all this, the conclusion of this research, of this article, was just the investigators saying, well, we would like more data. Like, yeah, we can see differences. We can see structural brain differences. We can see the effects of porn use in people. We just want to study it more. It does not negate anything I said whatsoever. In fact, a lot of it confirms everything that I said.
It does not. So what this article talks about are those differences that you talked about. They're right. You're right. There are differences in the brains of people who are compulsive, who are habitual, who do have these problems. And it's not porn users is what the article talked about. The main thing that they talked about were those people who self-identified as having a porn issue. They used the porn, and they specifically said, they surveyed and said it hurt their life. These are the people that we're talking about. The problem
that's going to be with any addiction.
Yeah, that's
right.
So
this says right here that
disorder.
Research on people with compulsive sexual behavior suggests blah, 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 that in particular, they reflect a change in the person's appetite conditioning in which their biological response seems to be greater than normal. This is what I was referring to in Norman Doidge's work, where he says, yes, and in those people, we see changes in their ability to have normal sexual relationships, to relate to other human beings. And I think all this philosophical stuff aside and all the empirical stuff aside, what do you guys think about the fact that this is known to affect people's ability to pair bond, to have relationships, to actually go out in the world and attempt to find a partner to get married and have children with? Or are you guys going to take like this other, I've had this debate with a lot of leftists, and a lot of them will just be like, well, anyone can raise babies in any sort of situation. You don't need a mom and a dad, and you don't need healthy marriages. We can just have test tube babies, and they can be, one guy told me they can be raised by a bunch of frat guys in a frat house, and it's no different. So I'm wondering how you guys feel about the society-wide impacts of millions of people being able to have parasocial relationships rather than real interpersonal relationships that produce marriages and children.
Well, okay. Once again, talking about this, I think there is everybody, I would imagine, would agree, or most people would agree, that there's real fundamental value that somebody gains from actually having that experience, opposed to a simulation of it. And now, where I feel like when it comes to all of this stuff, especially when it came to the brain structure stuff, and I'm gonna take a guess at your brain structure and say, when you heard, and when I sent you the thing that said, oh, brain structures are different, you thought brain structures were changed by the porn.
No.
Is that true? No. Okay.
No.
So okay, good.
So it's not the causation.
Now, great. Amazing. Okay. So porn wasn't causing it. You just believe that porn is something that exists, and since people can possibly get addicted to it, we should ban it.
I think that just like all other behaviors that produce crippling effects on people's life. We've talked about drugs, alcohol, gambling, any gaming. Some people get so addicted to gaming that they won't go to work. They neglect their family. Their whole life falls apart over it, right?
What about hobbies?
The point is, and your article mentioned that there's always a portion of the population who is more predisposed to this than others. That's true, which is why we need limits. We need limits. I'm not saying everything has to be banned. Andrew said that all porn should be banned. I think that free internet porn should be banned. I think we should go back to something we had, maybe 50, 70 years ago, where you did not have this. You can just get it like it's air now.
So you're okay with OnlyFans?
I would agree that we need some stricter regulations on porn, just generally. I think with children having too close access with it, I think that's harmful. It's bad, and I think it's been shown that it's bad. And so some extra restrictions on something like that, like clamping down on some of these sites, like Pornhub got hit pretty big for not having a good verification process, and now they have that. I think that's a great step forward. Nobody's talking about that shit. That's like that nobody wants that. People want that, right?
Okay, so you agree that if we can prove some harm, that there needs to be at least restrictions. So you're not
no.
going to
I think if you can prove harm,
have you guys addressed any of the stuff that I cited at the beginning? All the stuff I cited at the beginning, showing that there are women who are victims of this, that there are, this large market of men who are much older than these younger, more vulnerable women who are creating this motivation for them to, at a very young and impressionable age, average age of 21, these are our future mothers, our future wives, our future CEO boss girls, whatever you want them to be, right? Do we want such an easy on-ramp process where every 18-year-old girl, the day she turns 18, can decide to become a porn star? Do you guys think that's not harmful? Please justify that.
When are you asking if when anyone turns 18, we should not allow them to take agency and decide for themselves? Are you saying that we should say, no, these are the only acceptable things? If it's their body, then that seems weird.
No, I want you to justify your position. Don't do this. Are you saying? I've made my position. I'm
just trying to clarify.
Justify your position as a good left.
Rachel, I have a question. So the papers that
don't you care about these young vulnerable girls and the creepy men who are paying them $5 a month to look at their vajay?
Rachel, so I have a question. I have a question for you. So the papers that you were referencing, the papers that you were referencing, the papers you were, then don't answer it. Then don't answer. I'll just say it. And then you don't have to, and then you don't have to answer it. James, please, can I please say what I want to say? Thank you.
Okay, if Rachel does have a question, you don't want to give it just a sincere, pithy response, but we'll let you ask your question. But I mean,
I'll answer first. I'll answer first and then ask my question.
I don't even think you can restate her question.
Thank you. I don't think you think much at all anyway. So
yeah, restate her question.
So thank you. I'm sorry. What, Andrew?
Restate her question.
Andrew, what?
Restate her question.
Andrew, I can't hear you.
Yeah, you can't restate it.
The question is.
Respond. You got 20 seconds. Let's go, Maddie.
Okay, so the question is to justify whether or not we should allow 18-year-olds, 18-year-old girls saying, oh, should it be an option for them to show their buttholes to older men? My answer would be when, as a society, we have determined that when you turn 18, you are legally an adult. With that adulthood comes the expectation that they have a degree of agency to take in their own lives, whether that's joining the military, whether that's going to college, whether that's showing their butthole online.
But they can't smoke or drink at 18.
No, but they have the right to do that. But that's
that choice.
Right.
We as a
They
society.
can't smoke and they can't drink, but they can forever put pictures of their naked body on the internet to whoever.
Wait. Why are you throwing it at us when nobody here defended that? You don't know if we want to reduce.
What if we don't agree with
once you turn 18, you have agency, you can do what you want, right? I'm saying this is harmful, clearly.
I'm saying you know what's harmful? Do you think 18-year-olds shouldn't? Yeah. Do you think Exactly. It can cause harm. Does that mean that we should outlaw it for everyone because it has the potential to harm specific people? Okay. No, but I'm saying that's more of a philosophical question, is that if there could be, well, if you listen, maybe you figure it out. If there could be harm done, if there's the potential of harm to people who have a predisposition for addiction, or like in all the papers that Rachel is referencing that are specifically about addictive personality disorder, if there's that, and there's the potential that someone with addictive personality disorder can get addicted to it, reread your studies, because that's exactly what they reference. That's exactly specifically
not only that,
what
but you have another problem with this, which is that there's no guarantee that if you take the one addiction away, they will just get addicted to some other thing. There is a genetic component to this. So for instance, a person may genetically be predisposed to being an alcoholic and have a very addictive personality when alcohol is around, but have no addictive personality towards any other substance.
Don't you think that then it's on that person to, like what people do when they know that they have a predisposition to be addicted to alcohol? Isn't it then smart for them to stay away from it?
They don't know.
You don't know until it's too late.
But what about people that have that family history of addiction to alcohol or alcoholism?
Wait. James, that was not my question to her. My question to her was, if we can see that older men with money are creating an incentive to make younger, more vulnerable, less experienced girls who don't have resources, who don't have their education yet, who have no real security in the world. Often these are the girls who are doing this. Again, average age 21.2 years old to start the sexy OnlyFans. I want her to justify that
point is that the age discrepancy
for the rest of their lives.
Is your problem the age discrepancy?
No, I'm saying it's harmful and exploitative. Under any other thing that you would probably never justify this sort of thing. In this one instance, in this one debate, you are fine with older men with money exploiting the weaknesses of much younger, more inexperienced and vulnerable girls. And I want you to justify why in this instance, it's fine.
Yeah, they're adults. Yes.
So
they're adults who have agency. They're adults who have their own agency, and no one's forcing them to be on it.
So then I guess we got to get rid of that whole Me Too movement. Then, if you're over 18, you have agency. You're responsible for yourself. No one's forcing you to do anything. It doesn't matter that you had a dream to be an actress or a singer.
Consent.
It doesn't matter if you were coerced.
Do you know that
they are consenting?
Involved?
They're just being exploited. The casting couch is about consent with exploit, isn't it, Maddie?
You think it's okay to sexually harass women at work when they have not consented?
Wait a second. The casting couch is about exploitation, not about consent. They consent to it because they want the role, but they're being exploited because they're young girls.
They're young and they're inexperienced and they have a dream and there's something they want.
Yeah.
And they think this is the ticket.
So many actresses.
You would never be okay with it under that circumstance, but under this circumstance, they're 18, they're adults with agency. They screw them.
My question. Right? Okay. So my question here, interesting. There are a couple of things here. Where does the exploitation come from?
It comes from being young and needing money. It might come from being inexperienced and not having good judgment. I have a study here that shows that 88% of teenagers who end up in psychiatric wards come from broken homes where both parents are not there. So we know that.
Can you restate that one more time? I want to make sure I heard you.
Yeah, there's a study I have from 2012 where they did a study on a children's psych ward for teenagers. It was like 13 to 19 or 13 to 18. And 88% of the children who were admitted there came from broken families where one or the other, or maybe even sometimes both biological parents were not there. Divorce is super high, especially among certain demographics. Most kids are born to single moms now. We know this is a risk factor economically, psychologically. There's a lot of vulnerable young women who at 18 have all the motivation in the world to do this. It's mostly not the girls who are in med school or, going to university. There's some that do that, sure. But a lot of them are not making enough money. They are vulnerable in some way, and they are pressed to do this. Most people enter sex work, girls, women specifically, because there's some sort of pressure on them why they need to. And this older market of men with lots of money is they're willing to throw this pittance of cash at them to see them in their most vulnerable state. And then this material is out there forever. And like I said, there's a book a woman wrote about all of the cases where these girls have been tracked. They have been stalked in real life. Their material has been leaked. There is real harm here that's caused by the people who are creating this market. And you guys seem like you would care about this under any other circumstance. But right now it's like, screw these 18-year-old girls. They know what they're getting into. We don't care. And I want to hear the justification for why it's not harmful to them.
Okay, so a couple things. Once again, touching on OnlyFans, you keep trying to use OnlyFans as simply a proxy for porn when that's just simply not the case. Once again, the top people who are on OnlyFans do not do porn. Now, not all of them, some of them do, but if you look at like top 10, top 100 people who are on OnlyFans, not all of them do porn. A lot of them are rappers. A lot of them are other celebrities. And so it would make sense that people of the similar cohort would be there as well. I mean, if you could find information to prove that the people who specifically are subscribing to the young girls OnlyFans
are being exploited on OnlyFans.
Great.
We're
talking that's what I'm
talking about. We're talking about the simps and specifically the sexual element.
Okay, I understand. That's why I brought this point up, because we can't just use these simply as proxies.
You wouldn't
because
need
no, it's because you don't know who the audience is of the people who are these really young girls. If you can still prove that, I mean, go ahead. But I'm just saying.
98%, this is from OnlyFans, 98% of all their content is adult content. So we're talking about a teeny tiny minority of people who are not doing adult content.
Also, you know that people on OnlyFans aren't just women, right? Like there are plenty of guys. Do you have a same issue with young, like 18-year-old guys?
Yes, I do. I absolutely
just as exploited.
Because it's just as bad.
Is it the age discrepancy that you have a problem with? Because you mentioned that there's all these older men, and that's something that you stress on. You really stress and emphasize older parts.
Because normally,
so there should be an age limit.
No, the reason I'm stressing it to you is because people on Twitch, people on the left in general, are always saying it's the dirty old men of the patriarchy who are always victimizing all the young girls. I hear this every day, all the time. So
you don't have a problem with it. So you guys don't have a problem with it. It's all the leftists that have a problem with it.
Any other time, I do have a problem with it. Of course I do. Because pornography is immoral and exploitative of whoever is performing. It could be young gay people. It could be young trans people who we know are far more predispositioned to have mental illness and mental health problems. These are the most vulnerable people who do this. It's not empowering and good. Nobody's just like, I did porn at 18 because I thought it would be fucking awesome. There might be two people out there, but let's be honest. We know this is a very vulnerable population that feels like they need to do this.
OnlyFans isn't just porn. So
you're
98%,
talking
Maddie, 98% of the platform is adult content. And that's the topic of the debate. Stop
and immoral according to who?
Justify your position. You still haven't, because you can't. You're not even smart enough to do it. You can sit there and make all the bitchy faces you want and sit there and...
This is just what my face does.
Are you going to ever justify your position? Do you have anything to contribute at all? Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share?
No, I've just sat here vapidly and spewed nothingness.
That's exactly what...
I'm a void.
Take a look at the chat and see what they think of your performance.
Oh, that's how I base my self-worth, is off of the chat. So
wow. Okay. Everything I say is snarky. I don't even have another mode of being. Like, I don't even have a personality.
I haven't pretended to.
This
is all I have. You haven't pretended to.
Are you guys done, or do you want to move on?
I'm waiting for you to
we just want you to justify
your position.
Okay, you don't sound
in this debate ever. It's been 2 hours almost, and you have not yet even attempted it.
This might be a good opportunity to go into the Q&A. Thoughts? Any last things you guys want to say before we do? Any last closings that tie together the threads of this debate?
Sure. So I can touch on something. I feel like I've been a little left out of the conversation every now and again, but you know, it happens. There's been a bit of back and forth. You love to see it. You love the conflict. When it comes to these like platforms where you can post whatever you want, anybody can just make an account and post something, right? And so it's also really difficult to make proxies for what you said, like, what was it, 98% is adult content. I would wonder what they would classify specifically as adult content, right? So if I post like allude. Like if I post like my shirt off, if somebody typically posts something where it's like TOS, I mean, like when it comes to adult content, my channel is adult content here on Twitch. Also on YouTube, my channel is adult content as well. So I would really wonder what they would mean by that when they specifically say adult content. That on top of the fact that simply because most of it is adult content, that doesn't mean it gets that many views. Once again, you said that most people aren't making nearly any money, or if any money, on OnlyFans. Most of the people who are making most of the money on OnlyFans, the people who are making the top amount of money, aren't doing porn. There's like Tyga and Cardi B and Mia Khalifa, if you know Mia Khalifa, but she's not doing porn. She never did porn, ever, as far as I know. It's the same with like the average YouTube video. You guys are on YouTube. The average YouTube video gets, if I remember, it's between 2,000 and 8,000 views. But I wouldn't sit here and say necessarily simply because of that it's exploitative. Now, I think there can be factors that can make it exploitative. Absolutely. 100%. But I think it's the goal of society to try to reduce those as much as possible so people can make informed decisions about what they would like to do in their lives as adults, rather than limit what they can do simply because we believe that we know better for them. I think it's typically better in the world if people make their own decisions about what they typically want when they're able to have the full breadth of being able to exert their free will, than typically just all of the time is cracking down on literally everything, right? But like to tie back to what we're talking about, I stated before that like there's value to experiences. I don't believe that there's been anything to prove that specifically, since the amount of people who genuinely say that they have a porn issue is about like 5% of people who use porn, period. And about 80% of the human population uses porn. I would say that this is more of a problem of things that we can address rather than the porn in and of itself. Simply because it can trigger something in somebody to be addictive does not mean that it is addictive in and of itself and should be going away. I think that we should create structures here to help people in when they do fall into those honestly reasonably rare scenarios in their life.
Thank you very much. Any last thoughts? Maybe a minute or so from Andrew, Rachel, or Maddie?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to let you know that neither one of you ever justified a single position that you took, not once. And we asked numerous times, and like even in Chris's closing, look at how they torture the stats. Like the average YouTube video gets between 3,000 and 8,000. It's like the 90% of YouTube videos never get 1,000 views ever, right? You can torture these things however you want to. Which is why in society, we also have to justify the things that we do. It's not good enough to just say, well, I think that, based on these certain empirical metrics that I'm looking at, that we should probably go about this because we don't know for sure if the porn itself is addictive or if it's just people with addictive personalities who are going after porn. I still want a justification for why either of those things are bad in your worldview, which I never got never once. Maddie's been asked, I don't know how many times, justify her worldview. In fact, Maddie spent most of the opening talking to her chat. She never even paid attention to a word that we said. She's not even paying attention right this second. She's still talking to the chat, right? What a clusterfuck. What a bunch of madness from these people. They have no justifications for anything that they say. They didn't contend with any of Rachel's points for the most part in the empirics. Definitely didn't contend with 90% of the things that I said. It was a terrific dumpster fire. It's good for content, but we didn't get anywhere.
Yeah, can I go next?
Yes.
Okay, so we saw something that Andrew and I are up against all the time, which is we're talking to leftists who, if you go to their channel and watch their content, they are hardcore leftists. They are not at all the libertarians that they are in the debate, right? Whenever you debate them, suddenly they're libertarians. They want everyone to have freedom to do what they want because that's just generally better in the world. But if you talk to them about things like free speech on, Twitter, what you can say about elections and certain other events that have no terms or no words, they'll justify all kinds of censorship. They'll justify all kinds of restrictions on economic situations, on all kinds of things. They love restrictions. They're not libertarians. They do not believe liberty is what's best for everyone until they're debating conservatives, when they suddenly become libertarians who want everybody to have free choice and to be able to follow, whatever it is they want to do. They did not prove anything. They didn't justify anything. I showed a lot of evidence of things that were harmful. We had logical argumentation, walking through our worldview and justifying how and why these things are harmful. And Chris, I will say, really did a good job. Shark over there. He at least was engaging somewhat with things. He was trying. It's just that he ends up doing a lot. He knows that he can get into a lot of traps. He could see we were trying to pin him down on certain things so that we could point out hypocrisies. So he ended up doing a lot of, well, sometimes this may be the case. And just because sometimes there's harm doesn't mean there's always harm. And we need to have structures in place and all this kind of like real vague stuff. But at least he was trying. Maddie is the reason that I say most women can't debate. They don't want to be logical. They don't want to think through their worldview. They don't want to justify anything they believe. They just turn into a stupid bitch. So that's what usually happens. And that's my closing.
Juicy. Maddie, what are your last drawing together the threads of this debate?
Yeah, first of all, Rachel, like A+, you really nailed it. And no, look, Shark is incredible and did extensive research on this
guys,
subject.
I didn't do anything.
And
Sorry,
that's
we
why
lost.
I
Oh,
feel
fuck.
really
Delete the VOD.
happy to have him as a debate partner because he just does a fantastic job. I tend to be more of a bruiser. I like getting a little angry. I'm a fire sign. What can I say? But it's just
I feel like I responded to basically everything I could.
Moral framework seems so
really
malleable,
care.
yet they claim
You know what I mean?
it's from the basis of their,
I feel like I
their
ever
orthodoxy,
answered every
the
question that they
church
had.
go to, and that the Bible's only incidental, and yet the Bible is what justifies like things like alcohol and other things. Look, there are studies showing the negative impacts of addiction. There's studies showing what that can do physically at the neurological level, and it's devastating. But you don't see us looking to ban things like processed sugar. You don't see us saying that because people can eat too much food because that's a compulsive disorder. The eating disorder is where you binge. We're not trying to ban McDonald's. Because there is a certain degree of personal agency that we assume for every single adult. And that is what is important. To try to say that we believe that everything should either be restricted or then all of a sudden things are open. What we are saying is that
them onto the point
we allow for personal agency to be a cornerstone of our values so that people can choose
I had them debate in the
how
window that
they live their life so much as it impacts themselves. The question is that when that extends to negative outcomes for other people, for the society at large, that is where there's an issue. Now, those issues don't necessarily warrant the imposition of the state or the state to
go into
use
Q&A,
its
so I
power
get to use some of the other stuff that I've been thinking of.
Desired behaviors
that I wasn't able to use in this conversation.
Certain things. They can absolutely create advisories. You see that with cigarettes. For example, how there are plenty of government-funded advertisements and campaigns that are dissuading people from smoking cigarettes. But it's still legal because we acknowledge that adult people have the agency and the right to decide what they do to their own body.
Honestly, college can be more exploitative,
given that it's not harmful or it's not done in a place that's harmful to others. And without being able to demonstrate
more women get sexually assaulted at college than they do in OnlyFans. Let's be honest with ourselves. It doesn't align
with my religious framework. That's not a reasonable metric with which to measure harm. So until you can show a one-to-one correlation, a direct correlation that things like OnlyFans, people paying creators for their services, whatever their services are, whether that's porn, whether that's rapping, whether that's art, unless you can prove that that is creating measurable harm to society at large and that you can draw that line, it's not a dotted line, then you have no basis to stand your ground. And you should watch some porn because it's a good time.
We'll jump into these questions. Want to say, folks, a couple of housekeeping type things. Our guests are linked in the description. Check out those links if you'd like to hear more. Although we're going to hear plenty more as we've got a lot of questions. We're going to rush through these fast, but want to remind you many more juicy debates coming up. For example, Destiny and Matt Dillahunty colliding on Saturday, November 19th. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And with that, first up, Deej says, can we agree? We actually talked about that, what harm means. So that was actually asked earlier. Mark Reed says, Andrew, Don't you smoke? Isn't that harmful for you? Why should we not ban things that you do that are demonstrably harmful, like smoking?
That's a good question. And nobody said that you couldn't. And that my justification is not that we're all just autonomous and have complete and total agency with no restriction. We're not endless freedomites, and neither are our opponents. And that was our entire point. Could you ban smoking and nicotine and all of these different things and maybe even have a better society for it? It's very possible. Nobody's saying that you can't do that. And we never made a case that you shouldn't. There is no hypocrisy. We asked specifically for the justification that these people had for the arguments that they were making, and they had none. My justification, my wife's justification is the Orthodox teachings of our church. And we have the justification of God. Literally, we can justify our claims based on those things. At least now you can contest those things, and that's fair to do. And you can argue about those things, and that's fair to do too. But at least we gave a justification for why we think these things. Nothing from the other side, nothing.
Andrew and Rachel, Coffee Mom asks, which part of your worldview requires you to be condescending? This one coming in from Bowl of...
The fact that anyone thinks we were the condescending ones in this debate is hilarious. Normally you might be right, but not this time. Maddie had us way beat on that.
The chemistry that you, Rachel, and Maddie Cakes have is off the charts. This one coming in from Bowl of Spaghetti says, where... Okay, got that one. Coffee Mom.
They love me.
Redacted also, just because Maddie was more confrontational and condescending does not mean you weren't too. You weren't too.
Hmm?
This one,
because I was very condescending.
Redacted says harm is when Springfield leaves lewd and lascivious remarks at the 3rd district. I don't know what that is. Danny T says, Andrew, prove your moral foundation is true. Your Orthodox moral law giver also supported slavery in Exodus 21. Does slavery do harm in your worldview?
There's a point of fact, it didn't. It's not accurate. What Exodus speaks about is actually an equalization, which was brand new at the time. Nobody had ever seen a conquered people not be enslaved with equal rights. It wasn't quite equal, but it was completely revolutionary for the time. And so it's an inaccurate statement across the board. And I'm happy to debate about it. And the thing is that if you want to ask me if my moral claims are true, I think that that's a fair thing to ask. But in this particular case, I just wanted to understand what their morality was and them understand what our morality is before we even get to the debate so that we can understand the different purviews and how we look at these things. Chris, I think, did try to do that a bit. Maddie, on the other hand, just threw it out the window. We're all autonomous agents. Here's all of my presuppositions, and they all must be true because, after all, I said them.
Oh, also, were you referring to that one line or a couple lines about like I always interpreted it to be more about indentured servitude than actual slavery.
Again,
here in the West, we think about
revolutionary for the time.
Okay, just wondering.
Yeah. This one coming in from Do Appreciate It, Zola Mavolani says, Maddie, why do you waste your time debating people who probably... Okay, just enough of the insults, folks. This one coming in from Bowl of Spaghetti says, where's the debate moderator? It's true. We let things go kind of loose around here. We don't like it being overly produced. We don't want a moderator that's overly controlling.
It was good content and you loved it. Just shut up. You said, you loved it.
I kind of wish we could talk about marriage, honestly.
Happy to do it.
Samir Farsain says, is your worldview affecting listening teenagers at this moment? Would you advise your own kids to apply it? If not, why push a selective application message if you wouldn't encourage your kids?
Who's that for?
I don't know. They didn't specify.
I would imagine that it's us since we said that it wasn't bad. So this comes into a really weird place. I don't know. Like some people don't understand that something can be fine while also not pushing somebody to do it or advising somebody to do it. So I think that there are many like pretty cool jobs that I wouldn't advise my kid to do. Like I wouldn't advise them to work on an oil rig. I wouldn't advise them to go crabbing if they want to. I wouldn't advise them to be a cop, if I'm going to be completely honest. I wouldn't advise them to mow lawns because apparently that's more dangerous. Or go to the military. I don't think it's bad or we should stop somebody from doing something like along those lines. While also saying that's necessarily bad. I'm a military brat. Both of my parents were in the Army 30 years each. My mom told me, I remember when I was a baby, she said, if you go to the military, I will kill you. They won't kill you. I'll kill you. Right. But other people, she's like, yo, if you want to go to the military, here's all the resources and everything. It can be something like that. And I think that even though I personally, I mean, like, I wouldn't, if like my like daughter was like, if I had, I guess the idea between the choice between having like a gay son or thought daughter, if I'm going to be completely honest, if I knew that she was going to go like super famous on OnlyFans and she was like a grown ass adult, I mean, less women get raped on OnlyFans than on college. So I mean, I wouldn't advise her to do it, but if she was like, yo, I want to be a content creator, Dad, do you love me? I'm like, go ahead, sweetie, do your thing.
You would
women get raped in church.
You would agree that all of those occupations that you listed that you wouldn't advise a person to do are necessary occupations, though, wouldn't you?
Necessary and dangerous.
Yeah, but necessary.
Sure.
Being an OnlyFans skank is not necessary.
Okay. I mean, we can actually. I mean, we're trying to get robotics to do a lot of these jobs, anyways, because they're so dangerous. We don't want to
make robotic porn.
I mean, well,
yes,
with
Andrew.
sex bots going absolutely nutty.
I know.
I'm waiting for my Elon sex bot to come dancing into my room and give me the sucky 3000. Okay, I heard that thing got like leather seats and everything on the inside. I bet it's crazy.
Well,
but no,
that's pretty gross.
Thank you.
Like
but no,
that.
I think
Maddie,
I
do you
think
have a response?
No, I think Shark said it pretty succinctly, and
very real.
I totally agree. It's like there are things that I would not necessarily encourage my
also I think
kids to
I think
partake
entertainment
in.
is necessary, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah. And like there are plenty of things that I would maybe say like, oh, you know, I would probably try to dissuade my kids from doing. But when they become a full adult where they make their own decisions, the best thing I can do is support them regardless. But that doesn't mean I have to necessarily encourage. So it's that enforcement mechanism, again, that we're talking about. So no, it's like the same thing where it's like, if I quiet, like no one's asking you. So it's the same way that I wouldn't encourage my kids to smoke cigarettes. But like if they did, I might be disappointed, but like I wouldn't.
You know what? Sure. Yeah, I do think it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you think
Gotcha.
So you think adult entertainment's necessary?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. People love entertainment. It makes them happy. Also,
no,
it seems to be correlated.
Also,
this falls under entertainment.
Yes,
why is it necessary?
Yeah. Listen. Hey.
What happens if we get rid of it tomorrow?
A lot of marriages would fall apart.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
You guys want to know something crazy?
It's factually true.
I think that more marriages fall apart.
When it comes to
crazy?
spouses who watch porn, they actually are less likely to divorce than spouses who don't. So
I'm worried
honestly,
about you guys.
it could hold marriages together.
You gotta
too.
I watched porn with my husband.
Drop that source in the chat for me, bro, because I need it for future debates.
I got you, bestie.
This one,
and we don't believe you.
Danny T says, "Does smoking do harm? Is there a market for it?" I think this is for you, Andrew.
Gee, you think so? Yeah, I think that smoking, generally speaking, is bad for a person, and I think that generally speaking, there's a market for it.
This one from, appreciate it, Hates Stairs says, Andrew and Rachel, could your argument about OnlyFans being coercive also apply to the U.S. military, i.e. taking advantage of young souls with the promise of wealth at the end of the tunnel?
Absolutely. In fact, something that my wife and I have both talked about very much, having had experience with it myself. So I'm going to just briefly state this, that yes, it is exploitive, and that's why they go to college campuses in order to recruit. They go specifically after young men, but it is a necessary occupation, at least at the current moment in time. So while it is exploitative, I would say that the benefits to the average person are so overwhelming that and you know, things have gotten better with the VA and things like this. They're not nearly as bad as they used to be, but they're a necessary evil at the moment.
You got it. Thank you very much.
One of my areas of specialty is studying covert government operations. So I'm completely like anti-US military at this point. I would never advise anybody to go into it unless you're like super desperate and need free college for some reason.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it, 08072 CD5 says, assuming porn damages reproduction of porn addicts and actors, wouldn't it be good for society for people without self-control to peacefully self-eliminate themselves out of the gene pool?
No, eugenics is immoral in our worldview. And our opponents might say that they prefer reformations and that they prefer rehabilitation, but they really don't. Our side actually prefers the rehabilitation. Our side, the side of Christ, is the side that goes for rehabilitation and says that everybody can be saved and brought away from this madness. So the answer to that question is actually pretty simple from our worldview.
You know what? He's right. I used to. He's right. I used to care more about rehabilitation, but honestly, I saw what conservatives are, and honestly, they cause more damage to society than almost any other thing that we can add to it. More than guns, more than drugs, more than porn, definitely. And honestly, I'm starting to believe that if you take a test and you score like right of center on that test that the government gives you, that you should be placed in jail for minimum 10 years. And also, you know, if you can change people's brains, hit them with the brain zappy and turn them into a
what
turn them
happened
trans.
to the people should be free
Nothing.
to do
No,
what
they should be trans. They should be trans and happy. Trans them.
This came from his earlier
trans them.
His earlier Andrew research, and in his earlier Andrew research, he had made and stated this point then too, and said, "When I'm on MDD, I'm going to say that conservatives ought to be eliminated because they cause the most harm."
Listen, I'm on my script. I'm almost done with the script. I'm near the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad script.
Thank you.
I don't identify as a conservative, so I don't know what you're going to do with
What
me.
did you think I wanted to kill you or something?
No, just put me in jail for 10 years.
I didn't want to put you in jail. I don't know who you are, lady.
Oh, you wanted to put the conservatives in jail. Sorry.
Okay, you don't have to be one.
This just proves how disingenuous they are. They're totally disingenuous. Didn't come for a debate.
Everyone assumes I'm a conservative when they debate me.
I mean, you can be. I don't know.
That's a large generalization.
Maddie's a conservative. Samir Farsain says,
I am a conservative.
Samir says, what I always grasp from sin defending debaters is, quote, the buffet of sin is already so big, a new item like OnlyFans wouldn't really hurt much more. Don't eat here if you don't like it. What are your guys' thoughts?
That's a pretty based and excellent point.
Yeah, there's always the defense of more sin.
Maddie and Shark. Maddie and Shark, what do you think? You agree?
I mean, sure. I guess if we're going to take like the religious standpoint of we live in a sinful world and everything, then something honestly as pretty small as OnlyFans, probably not even the top like 300 websites in the entire planet, doesn't really do that much harm, and many people don't really care.
Maddie, thoughts?
Yeah, I would say largely people don't care. And if you want to put the harm done in aggregate in terms of the total harm that's caused and what behaviors are leading to that harm being caused, OnlyFans is not even a blip on the radar.
Yeah, I mean, if the converse argument would be OnlyFans is the like straw that broke the camel's back, I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
That wasn't the converse argument.
And that's a weak ass camel.
No, the converse argument was just to say that you'll endlessly justify sin by saying because there's already sin, what's a little bit more?
Isn't that why Jesus died?
For what? What did you think Jesus died for? For you to have an OnlyFans, Maddie?
Yes.
Was it for you to have an OnlyFans, Maddie?
Is it for our sins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. By the way, folks, our guests are linked in the description if you would like to hear more from them, especially because I think I clicked out of the list. So 2 seconds as I load this back up. Do want to mention not only are Andrew, Rachel, Shark, and Maddie Cakes linked in the description box here on YouTube, but at the podcast, which is growing rapidly, which I want to say, folks, It's 100% ad free. We don't make a dime off of the podcast. So if that's useful, check out our podcast, Modern Day Debate, at fine podcast apps everywhere, where it has all of our guests, Andrew, Rachel, Shark, and Maddie Cakes linked there as well. So if you're listening via the podcast right now, go ahead and click away on their links. This one from Deej says, Maddie, how does criminalization not decrease use?
Yeah, so I mean, there have been a lot of studies and real life blueprints of this policy in action that demonstrates that increased criminalization of drug use specifically does not actually decrease usage. You need to look no further than the war on drugs here in the United States, how usage of certain drugs, despite the cracking down by law enforcement, by Border Patrol, just because they were cracking down more, they allocated more resources to cracking down on both usage and distribution and selling and production. It only led to increases in drug use. One example of another country that took a bit of a different approach is in Portugal, where they basically made all drug usage legal, but they provided, they really focused on it treatment first, where they went to ensure that people are not only, if they're going to choose to use drugs, that they're doing so safely. And if this becomes a problem where they start to abuse it, they have access to the resources they need to overcome that addiction. And overall, since that policy was put in place, they've seen overall drug usage plummet. And that's because when you make it focused more on the healthcare and well-being of people and treating addiction as its own issue, which it is, then you are attacking the root of the problem and you see overall usage decrease. So there are a number of other examples throughout the world that have tried similar approaches, but that's where I get that perspective, is that there is an actual real life example of why this works, and that's backed up by anyone who's doing meaningful research in this area.
This one from Credo at Intelligam says, Shark and Maddie, if people have problems forming intimate connections because of mental problems due to OnlyFans, which is 98% adult content, they say, is it curing or helping to allow possible pornographic addiction as well?
Sure, Maddie, could I take this since you took the last one? Okay, so when it comes to this, if we're okay, so for one, I'm not going to grant that this is happening. The mental issues are happening because of the porn, because there's no research to prove that it does. I can say that if people do have mental issues and habitual and compulsive issues in their brain, is just makes them somebody who's pretty compulsive and can do that, then I believe that it's not then if that's not the case, then why would we be attacking that? Because we're not attacking the root of the issue. It seems like we're attacking a bunch of auxiliary and satellite things that can be predictors of something else. But if you want to actually nip the problem in the bud, I think having these people actually genuinely be able to get help, destigmatizing mental health issues, and making sure that they have the social circles and making sure that they have the resources to reach out if they need help, because people typically know that there's something wrong. A big issue when it comes to actually getting out and getting help, it comes from not being able to have the resources near you, not having good resources. Being too close to like police is another thing. And so I wouldn't say no, don't. And so I would say no, don't like remove that, even though since like people are gaining something from it. I would say like just help those people who need help, which once again is proven to be a very small amount of people who genuinely have issues due to porn consumption, or genuinely have issues correlated with porn consumption.
You got it. This one coming in from Do Appreciate Your Question. To the nose. Where do you get your morality from? From Deej.
Oh.
Is he asking, is that, are we the nose?
Yes.
Okay.
That seems to be a Jewish reference, by the way.
Oh.
I don't know if that, yeah. They know?
Redirecting. The no position.
Oh, no position. I thought you said the
to the
nose.
nose. Okay.
Yeah.
To the people who say no, they don't cause harm. Okay, great. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll just make it quick. I mean, my moral framework, I would say, comes from largely my upbringing. It comes from my experiences, just living day to day. And when we talk about, I mean, I don't know if I would call myself a full utilitarian, which I think was inferred. My moral framework's a bit more complicated than that, but I would say largely it's from like what I was taught growing up and my own experiences, where you see when you harm others, even when it's done unintentionally, it's always impact over intent, and a mindset of continuous growth and self-reflection. I would say that comes from a number of sources, but largely it was like my family, the way I was raised, and the community that I was surrounded with and still am surrounded with my entire life.
My morality is completely selfish because I think about what if that was me, right? So it's treat others how you want to be treated, okay? I wouldn't want that to happen to me, so I don't want it to happen to other people. I'm not in people's heads. I don't know who they are, but I can only imagine. We have no clue if anybody else is sapient, but we can imagine that they probably are, the way they interact with the world. So I'm just going to be like, yo, if I wouldn't want that to happen to me, I'm not going to have it happen to them. If I was put in that situation, this is probably what I wouldn't want to happen to me. And so that's how we come up with it.
You got it. And thank you very much for your question. This one coming in from Samir Farsain says, joining the military, police, cutting lawns, all these things do guarantee your wages. Defiling yourself on the internet by showing your butthole, on the other hand, is just a lottery ticket.
Sure. So when it comes to this, not everybody who does porn does or sex work here, I guess. We'll do sex works because like people keep using OnlyFans as like an allegory for, or just like sort of like satellite for actual porn. It depends on what you mean by like porn. Once again, adult content could be lewds. I could, if I made pictures, if I like made pictures and uploaded them on my Twitter account or something, I'd be and I had like my shirt off and I was like proud I was going to the gym. I'd probably put like a sensitive tag on that if I just tweeted out on Twitter. I would consider that a little adult because people may not want to see my belly. You know, I'm a little bit of a furry boy. They may not want to see that day. You know, they're sitting next to grandma on the bus. It could be something like that. And so, wait, what was the question again? Can you ask? Sorry, the ADHD got me.
No problem. It was. Sorry. This is you got 10 seconds. They said joining the military or police or cutting lawns guarantees your wages. Defiling yourself on the internet by showing your butthole, on the other hand, is just a lottery ticket.
Okay, sure. Any content creation is just a lottery ticket. If you try and be an actor, it's just a lottery ticket. Literally everything that involves not like a set wage that you'll get is a lottery ticket. That's not like an argument against this. Is an argument against like gig work and unreasonable like other acting and anything else that you could possibly doing with an unfixed income.
You got it? Anybody else on that? All right, this one coming in from Bowl of Spaghetti says, Andrew, don't you know that there is no God?
Yeah, well, you know, you should go watch a video I made on YouTube about debate tactics. One of the sections that I go over is saying everybody knows that isn't an argument, just so you know. So just saying, don't you know, isn't that true? Isn't that, none of those are arguments.
This one from Shit Channel for You. Can we say shit on YouTube? They say remove porn from the world. Porn is dangerous.
Yes.
You got it? This one coming in from
Weak.
Deej says, Andrew, God's word is interpreted through his apostles. So what, quote unquote, God said is from men. That being said, how is alcohol less harmful than OnlyFans?
So I disagree with the premise of one. That's first. And then second, whether or not alcohol is more dangerous than OnlyFans or not is irrelevant to our argument.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it, Fetor Mephitis says Luke 1:15 and Micah 2:11, among other places, should help Maddie regarding alcohol besides wine in the Bible. Maddie, would you like me to read Luke 1:15 to you?
I don't know if it's Luke 1:15, but there is a passage where they say that anyone who practices drunkenness will not be welcome into the kingdom of heaven. But yeah, I would love for you to read the rest of Luke.
Luke 1:15 says, "For he will be great before the Lord. He must not drink wine or strong drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb." Although I don't know if that, me reading that, I don't see how that says drinking alcohol is wrong. But
didn't it just say that you can't drink wine? It says may not drink wine.
I think this is in reference to Jesus. It says, "For he will be great before the Lord. He must not drink wine or strong drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his..."
You got to be really careful with a lot of those verses because a lot of them are taken out of context, especially like back in the day. A lot of people purified their drinks with alcohol. And so that's why people, they put some alcohol in a lot of their water because it could have like bacteria in it. So I would imagine that you would have some amount of alcohol. But yeah.
I was wrong. The context actually says John Baptist.
Okay.
But I don't know if it follows that if John can't do it, that nobody can. But this one coming in from K-Max McDonald says, "They warned me before that this is not an insult. They say, does OnlyFans or porn in general harm men's desire to go and work for a woman or a relationship? Do loner men fear rejection so much that they prefer porn over working towards a relationship and subsequently don't actually develop the relationship skills they need for real relationships?"
I mean, personally, I would say, as somebody who's experienced a lot of loneliness in my life, and I wrote like, and we recently made a video on it and everything. It's not simply because, oh, I don't want to go to talking to girls, scary. I'm just going to sit in my room. It could be a lot of things. It could be anxiety. You have the possibility of losing reputation. It's really like when you take that masculine role, and you're the person who's supposed to be like the initiator, you're supposed to be the strong person, the rock in the sort of like relationship. It's difficult, and a lot of guys do not comport to that, and society does not make that very easy. And so I feel like it's a little strange. Some people go, oh, they do this simply because the other option is there. That's why I talked about how like experiences are important. Everybody who like I don't believe that there's any, somebody can provide it to me. I'd love to see it. If there's like 80% of men who use porn say that they would much rather be like jerking off to like porn than having an actual relationship or being married. It's a fallback that people can go onto and then imbibe in after other things have failed and after other things have not worked out. But I highly doubt a lot of people use it as a crutch. I haven't seen any information to prove that.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Deej says, Maddie, we got that one. Danny T says, what does God say about porn or OnlyFans customers? I think we know that. Andrew, anything to add on that? This one from Tim Zimlick says, porn in society leads to women wearing clown-esque quantities of makeup and burning their hair with chemicals. Ban porn and watch people return to normal.
Nah, brother. So here's a really big thing a lot of people just don't understand is that it's just societal standards. People look like that because it's people kind of want. Sorry. Like they wear makeup because people find it attractive. They dye their hair like that because people find it attractive. Simply because you don't does not mean that you don't run the world, buddy. There are a lot of people who find those girls very, very, very attractive. But you don't have to. That's fine. Don't.
Also, this is a wig.
This one coming in from, do appreciate. Is it really? This one coming in. Community of God says, Maddie Cakes, how does one, let's see.
All the ones start with Maddie Cakes. No.
We're looking for substantive questions. This one from Sommer says, leave it to Sommer. Trust me, this will be good. They say the quote, not everything on OnlyFans is porn, unquote, point is cancer. Everyone in this debate knows that they aren't debating OnlyFans' worth as a platform. The word OnlyFans is just shorthand in this context.
Okay. Well,
it's true. And several times, by the way, this was brought up, mostly by Chris, who for some reason wanted to make some sort of bizarre argument that, well, there's a few people who are rappers and this and that. Rachel correctly was like, look, 98% of it's adult content. he wants to further qualify it and go, well, that can mean anything. No, that's not really the crux of what we're after here. We're after the fact that it's mass nudity and pornography. Like, come on. It's and the reason that this was done was to clearly divert away from the topic.
No, I just don't want to like accept something that on its face could seem true. If we were just going to be talking, we're talking about OnlyFans, period, and fine. But if we're going to be talking about it in the specific subsect of specifically porn content, then we'd have to get data to talk about that, like porn content. I don't know what the demographics of those specific people are and what they do. And so I wouldn't accept that as just simply a shorthand, just pulling from the website statistics just completely as going to be completely, to demonstrate like exactly what goes on in that part.
Sorry. Samir Farsain strikes again, says access to the most attractive virtual love partners and discharging many times a week. Gross, Samir. Says makes your life partner seem less attractive and makes you unavailable for them. So they're saying it hurts relationships. Maddie, but you said you regularly watch all sorts of porn with your husband.
And she's going to end up divorced.
I didn't say regularly. Actually, the data says the complete opposite. So I'm a little worried about you and Rachel, but I know you guys will pull through. I have some good recommendations if you want.
Well, let's see. You've been married for 3 months and we've been married for 14 years.
Gross.
That's gross?
You guys are gross, not the marriage part.
Well, I don't understand. I said marriage and then you said
You know what
gross.
I'm going to do? I'm going to look for a porn where the people look just like you guys.
I'm sure that you are. Sure that you are.
James, I'm scared.
Brittany, everybody's friend on the panel in chat, provoked Brittany, says, hey, Maddie, you have lipstick on your teeth.
Yeah, I know. I have it on my face too. I probably swallowed a bunch. Hi, Brittany. Love you, girl.
How many of you on screen have had a run-in with Brittany? Shark, are you the only one that hasn't yet?
I've never spoken to the woman in my life, and I don't really plan on it.
This one from Tim Zimlick says, how do the pro-porn side explain how virtually every single person who quits porn reports having a profound change in mental clarity and health?
I mean, the same reason why if you buy into sort of like an eating habit or like some sort of like the traditional medicine type thing, why those people would experience the same sort of, I feel so much better. Go ahead. You want to speak? Go ahead.
It's the placebo effect, really?
Sure, yeah.
You're saying it's the placebo effect?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. People here's a really interesting thing. As somebody who's like gone to a church before, I forget what the line is exactly, but I remember sitting in the room when I was an adult and them talking about how there are a lot of guys who believe that due to, and it was a Protestant church, but how a lot of guys, they were scared because of how some people interpret the Bible there. They felt bad for feeling sexually attracted to like even their wife, right? They felt like they were committing a sin there. You can teach people, you can tell people that things are like, this is bad, that's bad all of the time. And once you do it for long enough, they can actually believe it. And then they can feel like something's better because they quit. Those people could actually have been addicted to porn. Some of them, absolutely. And if they were, then yeah, like not being like compulsed and like doing that sort of stuff and being late for work because you're jerking off. Yeah, absolutely improves your life. But I don't believe that what actually happened was the porn hurt you and now you're better.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. This one from Provoked Brittany as well. Says, congrats, Maddie. Didn't think someone could be worse than Andrew and Rachel.
Thank you. I know you said I had some on my teeth. Did I get it?
This one coming in from.
Oh, no, you need to smear a little bit more over here.
The joke's over, Andrew.
This one
She's
coming
so funny, you guys. Isn't she funny?
Joke's over, Rachel.
Tim Zimlick strikes again, says, how many researchers or journalists, if not a huge majority, are contaminated with bias because of their own porn addiction?
Not many. I don't believe that there are many people that are really that addicted to porn. Very few people are actually addicted to porn. I mean, like, we can imagine that everybody is biased against everything, and so the only thing that I believe is the only correct thing, because listen, I'm a big brain smarty, and everybody else is out to get me.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Kyrie Irving says, Maddie/Shark, do you believe in any form of virtue ethics? Can man's full virtuous potential be reached while consuming hardcore adult porno?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you believe, what virtue ethics do you believe in?
I told you. I answered that question a few questions ago. I don't know if you were paying attention or if
answer it again.
No, I already answered it. I'm not going to do you
I don't think you
service.
did.
I'm not going to do you a service. And so I already answered that question. And then the next question was that if I think consuming porn would allow people to still reach their full virtuous epitome, nirvana, whatever, I say, yeah.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Fetor Mephitis strikes again, saying that proof that porn is unhealthy. I went on a masturbating binge yesterday, just got out of the ER for severe dehydration.
Damn, brother. You got to, for one, DM me, let me know how many we can compare. And two, you got to make sure you drink water, because you're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that. And also, probably don't do it again. Also, probably don't do it again. Take care of yourself.
Not just water. Make sure you have Gatorade or some sort of electrolytes as well.
That's true. You can burn a lot of calories by drinking.
Bowl of spaghetti says, aren't pedophiles common in Christianity?
Oh no.
There is a commonality in the Catholic Church and pedophilia, but there's also a commonality between public schools and pedophilia, which is something that you'll see the left push quite a bit. What we can kind of gather is that pedophilia gathers towards wherever the children are. So if there's a lot of children in churches, pedophiles will gather there. Since there's a lot of children in schools, pedophiles tend to gather there. So yes, there is a correlation there for sure. Wherever there's children, there are sure to be people who want to exploit them.
This one from Deej says, how does agency justify?
Also, we're not Catholic.
Deej says, how does agency justify exploitation?
It doesn't, but you could argue that people are exploited, their labor is exploited in a number of jobs. I'm just saying that people have a choice to do what they want when they're 18 and when they're a legal adult.
Just you just contradicted yourself.
Literally, just like they can choose. I know, it's very funny, Andrew. God,
you just contradicted yourself. You're like, people can choose whatever they want, but agency has nothing to... Okay.
I'm saying, were you listening? Because I said agency and exploitation are different things, because whatever. But people have the agency to choose what they want to do when they're 18, when they're an adult, just like they can choose whether or not they go into the military, just like they can choose whether or not they want to mow lawns. But they have that choice when they are 18. Doesn't mean that people around them have to support it. Even if it ultimately is going to lead to a negative outcome to that person, they still have the agency to make that decision for themselves. And that's independent of potential exploitation. Exploitation would happen should they be forced against their will to do something.
You got this one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Music F3B says, boxing is profitable but dangerous. We would all agree that boxing, because you want money, is different from boxing because your boss is threatening to fire you if you don't. I don't get it either. This one,
I think it's probably like a question about like how the different types of exploitation, like the sort of like
coercion.
Background noise, radiation. Everybody needs to eat, and so they need to do something for work, and being forced into it when that wasn't something that you signed up to actually do, and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I would imagine.
I think that he's putting forward the destiny argument of, can you sacrifice at a younger age doing something that's terrible for you, like you do in sports, like you could with sex work. But that's my take. Or like cigarettes. Oh, no, cigarettes wouldn't qualify.
No, very different. Very different.
No, it's just, it doesn't follow from what the question's asking. The question's asking about a specific kind of work not a destructive drug habit.
Okay.
You got it. Thank you very much for this question coming in from, do appreciate it, Community of God says, child of Adam, let not Satan tempt you as he did with your parents in paradise, stripping their clothing to show them their private parts. Quran 7:27.
I don't have any words in the Quran, but when I was in college, I do remember there were some very beautiful Muslim women, and I made one of them my friend, and she was a very nice person.
This one from Maddie, TRCB Digital Minefield says, BHM and BPF are undefeated. I know BPF is you, Andrew, Big Papa Fascist. Who's BHM? Is that?
That's me.
What's it stand for?
Based homeschool mom.
Oh, okay, that's right. This one from Samir Farsain says, though not an excuse, I believe many parents cut their children from financial help too soon, forcing them to find ways to pay for college, rent, or food. So they aren't for OnlyFans, but they are granting the point that sometimes young people have a hard time financially.
Yeah, parents need to take care of their children better. There are a lot of parents that once they feel like their kids turn 18, that they're just, oh, no, my OBS crashed. Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
OnlyFans is kind of a cam girl service type of a platform. So it's like it gives you this false sense that, well, yeah, I'm sending her money and asking her. So like most of the creators will have like, oh, if you DM me an extra $50, I'll do a specific photo shoot or video in a theme that you like, something like that. And it gives the person this false sense that they do have some sort of relationship with that content creator. So it's different than just like going onto a free porn site and watching a random video in that way. And that's one of the reasons it's more insidious and more dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that it absolutely has the possibility to be worse. It depends on how it's used. I talk about, and a lot of other sex workers talk about, you shouldn't be trying to form a sort of like friend relationship. You need to always make sure that you all don't know each other and you all can't be friends. But personally, I think it's way cooler to actually buy something from somebody, same way that I buy a lot of my things from like little Etsy shops, and I like get the little card and they're like, thank you so much, or the handwritten card, and I'm like, thank you so much for buying. I think that's very nice. It's a nice touch that you don't get from like a big box cringe corporation.
I just put a poll in the chat right now. This is an honest folks, so you can Google it if you want to know. I can't see, even me as the person who put the poll up, I can't see who responded which way. I was curious. How many of you have ever used OnlyFans, including right now, if you happen to be using it? I'm curious because I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder how many people are actually OnlyFans content, you could say subscribers, when we did this debate. So that poll is out there right now. I'm intrigued to see the results in a few minutes. This one from Spartan Up North says, the Wilsons 1, public education system 0.
Oh, I didn't go through public education.
No, it's worse. I mean, it's a master's degree, in fact. That's what we're up against. It's the master's degree.
Yeah, it's pretty clear who has the master's degree here and who are the buffoons. Who are the
stay at home. Let's get homeschooled.
This one from
it says the smeared makeup lady.
Okay. Do you guys want the girl with the master's degree like telling people and teaching people, or me, the person who made sense and had data and could articulate her positions? I mean,
what does Jesus say?
Keep making fun of me for homeschooling my kids though, because you Jesus clearly say? What
does Jesus say?
Are you okay? Are you having a mental breakdown over there? Is this your Joker moment?
Are you?
No.
This one from Polarized Squirrel says, Rachel, you said that porn was harmful because it keeps people from making relationships, but how does this help society as a whole? Not all relationships are beneficial to both parties involved. So I think they're saying like, well, if the people weren't engaged in these parasocial or OnlyFans type relationships, just because they would theoretically, as an alternative, go form real relationships in the world with people, that doesn't mean those would be good relationships out there.
Yeah, but this is the weak argumentation. This is the problem with people not understanding justification ever, is like, well, some relationships are bad, ergo, why not have parasocial relationships? It's like they don't correlate. One does not negate the other. That's just a non sequitur.
Can I do something super quick, James?
Yeah.
Rachel, what's your definition of a parasocial relationship?
It's where you have some kind of commodification, maybe, or something where one party is under the impression that there is something meaningful and interpersonal between the two people, whereas the other person does not, but gives the impression that they do in order to keep getting the money. So, I mean, everybody knows that if you buy Belle Delphine's bathwater, she's not sending it to you because she loves you and wants you to have it. It's because you gave her money, right? But the thing that happens to men is that if they get any sort of feedback, some of these like really lower on the social rung guys that really feel like they can't cut it in the real world, they get this impression that it's as good as they're going to get, or it's something like it, and they're just going to roll with it because it kind of gives them a little bit of a dopamine hit. It gives them a little bit of an oxytocin hit to be like, oh, she paid a little attention to me, or well, at least she responds to my email and calls me sweetie, right? So it's like another exploitative relationship in this whole setup.
So men are just too dumb to recognize when it's transactional.
No, I'm saying this whole system of pay for sex and pay for porn is exploitative in both directions. It's harmful for the consumer, it's harmful for the creator, it's harmful for society at large, and it's harmful for family structures and for children.
Yeah. Okay. But again, you're saying it's because these loner guys who think, oh, she must love me, she must do this, and the assumptions that they make, and that's what's damaging. But
no,
so like men are just too dumb to recognize.
On one level, they know, okay, she's not really my girlfriend. But on another level, it's like, yeah, but she called me sweetie and that made me feel good. And like the girl down the street won't give me the time of day. So like, this is acceptable. It's an acceptable replacement.
The heroin addicts are just too dumb to stop doing heroin.
Yeah. Where's all your compassion for these people? You're so you have so much compassion for all the other victims in life, except in this debate. So the one guy turns into a libertarian when he's arguing us, and then Maddie turns into a fuck everybody. They're adults with their own agency.
Yeah,
and,
total moral nihilist.
Sorry, I guess I just have higher I have a higher opinion of men and think they can tell the difference. I don't think they're like this useless, like unable to differentiate between what's a real relationship and what's not. I have a higher opinion of men. So it's kind of disappointing that you assume this is how men treat this. This is really disappointing.
Wait,
your low opinion of them is really sad.
Wait a second. No, I gotta ask.
She's arguing a straw man and she's being a dumb bitch again. She's literally being a stupid bitch.
Didn't you say that you wouldn't recommend for men to join the military? Is that because you think that they're too stupid and that they will if you don't recommend it?
Did Rachel not say that these men don't recognize what
you
this
yourself
is?
Just
no, I'm done arguing about your premise because your premise is saying that like men can't understand this.
You think they are,
just
right?
take the L, my dude. Like
you think that they are smart
your opinion is so low. Your opinion is so low of men, and that's heartbreaking.
You're not fooling anybody.
Some of my closest friends are men.
Kicked in this debate, and
some of my closest friends are men. I'm married to a man. I think men are very smart.
Can I have one
move on?
Well, yeah. Why don't you define?
I'm done with this. I'm done with this. It's unhelpful.
You're done with it. You're done and over with. And you're
Rachel,
aka Abel. Ben Thorpe, aka Abel, says, Andrew and Rachel, you've made this entire debate about worldviews, but doesn't your worldview hold that dinosaurs aren't real?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
This one coming in from Polarized Squirrel. Got that one. This one from Mr. Monster says the Bible doesn't say anything bad about OnlyFans, so you're lying. God doesn't say it's bad.
We're not supposed to actually engage that, right?
This one I do want to mention because before I felt like the way I read that question, because I said OnlyFans relationship versus real relationship, which probably makes it sound as if I'm slamming the OnlyFans relationship. Oh,
you are.
I do have to say, I mean,
you are.
Is it true that like to interact with the OnlyFans person and like get them to message you back, you have to pay? I'm only asking this not to take sides, but out of personal curiosity, I'm like, am I biased for saying that's not real? Like,
I mean, it would really depend.
Huh?
Sure, it would really depend on what you mean by like a real relationship. Me being cordial with like the girl who works at my local like Hobby Lobby's cashier shop, and every time I see her, she goes, "Hey, Chris, hope you had a great weekend." I'm like, "You too, ma'am." That's a real relationship. Like people that you know in your Discord server, that's a real relationship. And people who you have business transactions with, and they know you, at least they recognize your like name. Like I know the people, I can recognize the people in my chat. I would consider that a real relationship, as in I know them. It's not a personal relationship. We don't know much about each other, or in the sense of I've talked about my life. I don't know fuck all about them. There's way too many of them to actually know. So sure, you could say like real, but if you mean real as in like sort of like real life, we've known each other, we've shared like intimate like relation, like we shared intimate like time and, you know, information with each other in a way that's different from like a business transaction, sort of like, hey, nice boobs, ma'am. I would imagine that that's fine. But once again, you'd have to figure that out. But yeah, I feel you.
You got it. This one from Samir Farsain says, why defend something that guides tens of thousands to fantasize about their sisters, moms, daughters, and grandmas? I don't think they mean like their own sisters and grandmas.
It sounds like a self-report.
No, that's a legitimate thing. They are saying now that the most common porn searches are like stepsister stuff, stepmom stuff, brother sister stuff, things like that. And this is what I was talking about, how people get into watching porn somewhat innocently and they get to weirder and weirder and weirder things to get the same stimulus response. So that's a real thing.
That part just wasn't proved, that you need that like people who are porn addicted have like some massive drop in like dopamine responses to just erotic images. Like in what I sent you, it showed specifically that the people who do, they have the same actual response, dopamine response and brain activity as people who don't watch porn, and people who, well, my bad, the PPUs, the people who say they're problematic porn users, and people who use porn sometimes, and people who don't use porn, they have the same exact response, even if they claim that they have a porn issue. So that part that's just not true.
Well, wait a second. You said that it's not proven, right? But it was demonstrated. You just rejected the data because you chose in a biased way to only engage with your own data and refused to engage with what was provided to you.
Shark, we should have gone with his intuition because that seems to be what the only thing that works. So we'll draw from that data set next time. Thank you for your
intuition is that you're an idiot.
Thank you. Noted. I'm writing that down.
Results from the poll are in. Have you ever used OnlyFans, including now? No was 84% and yes was 15%, which is strange because there's only two options. So 1% is missing. I have no idea how this is possible. But this
conspiracy.
Hi. This one from Samir Farsain says, Maddie, wipe that off. Halloween was yesterday.
No.
Big Man says, Rachel and Andrew, how does porn affect women?
So does he mean like the women who watch it, I would guess?
I think. Yeah.
Should we address both?
It affects women as well. And I think women are like make up a third of porn users, consumers now. So that's not good. I mean, the fact that it's so widespread
women be gooning and
that
consuming.
Women are also having problems with it. That's not, problem. No, we don't want that.
Tim Zimlick says, Maddie Cakes, I apologize about the clown makeup comment. Hun. Calls you
Thanks,
hun.
babe.
Says I'm passionate about the porn pandemic.
Yeah.
Porndemic.
Samir Farsain says no side to the no position side. Do you believe parents' professional life, their pride, their image, their faith could be harmed by their children being exploited online?
You're buying. I don't know where. Okay, we'll unpack this a little bit. If you mean exploited, as in they like post like lewds or nudes, then possibly. But these days, I feel like it's not like how it was in the past, where even like in my family's lifetime, where if you had like a tattoo, you could be fired. Like if you had like images like leak of you, what's more likely to happen, I think these days, is people console you and they're like, "Yo, I'm so sorry that happened to you." More than get you get fired or something. Like you'll get shit. Like there will always be people who will want to harm you and want to hurt you and want to be cruel to you simply because they like cruelty. But I mean, it's definitely possible. I find it less likely from what I've seen these days.
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Kiwi in Springfield saying, if your spouse says you have to pay to speak to them anymore, would we consider it wrong? If you had to do the same for a friend, wrong. If it's a stranger on the internet, why is it right?
Are you okay? Is this person okay? That question, like, it shows some like deeper, like sort of like bad shit going on.
Why don't you contend
Do you
with it?
smell?
I was about to.
Contend with it?
I was about to. You are susceptible to parasocial relationships, brother. Like the celebrity on your TV, your streamer, like the girl who works at your local Hobby Lobby. These aren't your friends, okay? Like this person may like think acquaintances and businesses, and simply because you've like exchanged some messages means you're like a friend or something. No, like she is not your friend. You just buy like cute pics off of her. Like the girl at Starbucks is not your friend. She works at a job, and when she quits, you will never see her again. I'm sorry. You need to, honestly, if you think that you need to go therapy.
It's totally ridiculous because what he's asking you specifically is a broader sense. And of course, you target him and say, oh, it's a self-report. Let me direct this at you. Why don't you know any better? And it's ridiculous.
You guys
I answered the question. I answered the question
about a phenomenon.
I answered the question.
Engage with it so dishonestly.
I answered the question. Did I not answer the question?
You did.
No, not really, because
Andrew would not recognize an answer if it.
The question had intent behind it, and the intent wasn't directed at him personally.
Okay, well, I still answered the question. I may have thrown some sludge at him. But I answered the question. I said they're not your friends. You are having a business interaction. They are not your friends.
Yeah,
you're having a business interaction. They're not your friends, okay? Mm-hmm. Your wife is not, like, honestly, if my wife was like an OnlyFans girl, I better be getting those pics for free, you know? Like if I never saw her and she only sold me pics, I think that's not a relationship, brother.
Yeah, but you never contended with why he asked you. Why is it that you would say it's wrong for you to have to pay for play with your own wife, but not with a complete stranger?
The relationship is completely different. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. Once again, it's baked in to say the reason why I think it's wrong is because they're not analogous. I think it's wrong for me to expect a blowjob from the girl who works in my local McDonald's window. Okay,
they are analogous. You claim everything is not analogous, regardless of what it is. If I had a peach and an apple, you'd say it's not analogous to compare them as fruit. It's ridiculous. He wants to know a specific. He wants to know.
I mean, in the sense of they're just relationships, sure.
No, answer the thought pattern.
I said it was wrong. I give you a reason why it was wrong. It's a business interaction, like an intimate, like friend interaction, and a business interaction, and an intimate interaction, and like selling something to somebody are different. The expectations are different. They don't owe you anything. They're not in a relationship with you. You just want to buy their pictures. It's simply a business exchange. They're not your friend. They never have been. They probably never will be.
He's alluding to the fact that the expectation shifts based on these bizarre dynamics that this type of pornography and parasocial relationship introduces, that you don't have when you have a wife and you have people you're interacting with face to face. And he's asking you, he's like, you would say that this is immoral, but that this other thing is fine. And you don't care because as long as it's strangers who are doing the exploitation, that's okay.
No, listen, it's just
he's being willfully ignorant.
I mean, I don't think he's being willfully ignorant. It's just like we just have very different worldviews. I mean, I just don't. I think it's very odd to expect personal, mutual sort of like intimacy from somebody who did not offer it to you, to somebody who you did not have a conversation with about this, somebody who seems to not want it because they have no clue who you are. And then go, I can't believe these things are different when you're in a legal binding relationship with your wife and you only go to see this person when you simply want like some pictures. The expectations are far different and it's baked into it. I just don't know how.
But the bigger question here is, can you guys go the rest of this debate without edgelording about how cool degenerate behavior is? Because I would say no, you cannot. Because both of you love to use like, oh, if I did something totally degenerate, it would be cool. It's just
define degenerate, because I don't think porn's degenerate.
Without morals. Without morals.
Morals according to who?
I am curious. theoretically, just on that last question, like if someone like a friend, like two friends, like would it be wrong if like let's say a friend and a friend, like a guy and a gal, they're friends, and then he like they're legit friends like in real life, and then he becomes her OnlyFans customer. Is it like immoral? And if it isn't, then it's like, but then why did having a relationship first make any difference? Because like it sounded like your answer, Shark, was like, well, you already have a relationship with these people in your life, so it'd be wrong to do it to them where you say you have to pay for my pictures. But it like if it's a stranger, it's not wrong because it's just a business transaction. So like Shark, under your reasoning, does it mean that if a guy and a gal are friends and he's like, hey, you're my friend, but like I'm going to join your OnlyFans, like, is it wrong in that case?
It would really depend on what she's comfortable with. If she's comfortable with people who she knows personally, knowing her OnlyFans and being on there, then no. It seems like they are both people who are able to make reasonable decisions and come to a solution by themselves that works out for both of them. I here, like for some people who aren't bought into this, okay, you could just think about this. I personally believe that, and my friend's family actually owns a bakery. I think it'd be shitty of me to walk into the bakery simply because they're my friend and go, give me free shit. Give me the cake you just made. Like, give me it for free. I think it'd be kind, incredibly nice if they did, and that would show our relationship, right? That could be a component of it. But I think the yo, fuck you, we're friends, give me free shit, I think that's pretty like shittily entitled, and they are making that because they want to make money. Just asking for free shit from somebody's business just because they're your friend is kind of rude, honestly.
So it seems to me throughout the course of this couple hours, you guys really are utilitarians. You think that morality comes down to consent and preference, and I haven't heard any other standards. So is it just
consent isn't inherently utilitarian? Consent is a concept separate of that. But I would say a lot of it is consent because the dynamics between these different people and the relationships that you have, a lot of that, like not all of that is transactional.
But
so like my relationship between myself and my best friend is not transactional.
I don't want to listen to you yammer for 30 minutes. Is there anything besides consent and preference, or is that it? Just consent.
I would say also
and
they're not harming each other, and specifically not harming each other in a way where I believe that the state should step in.
And why do you think
consent and preference?
Yeah, consent and preference.
Sure. Okay.
Preference
Unless, of course,
that.
you don't want a, stabby, then I'm sure they're going to enforce their will on you, probably, right? You don't think anybody has the right to refuse certain medical interventions that the state deams necessary, right?
I wish
in that case, consent is not necessary. I would venture to guess.
So this is just like the dumbest conversation I've ever had. I think we can move on. It's very stupid.
No, it's not dumb. She's asking
you
if
really
mandatory
dumb.
vaccinations by the state are
testing your
with
logic.
The limits of the limits of your ignorance know no bounds. My days,
I would say
my days of not taking you seriously are coming to a middle.
Sure, I would say personally,
love that
when
you're
it comes
saying that with your stupid face and your smeared lipstick.
My what? Is there something on my face, Rachel? Rachel, what?
I would say like the damage.
Maddie.
So when talking about this on like a societal standpoint,
never called you a bad name.
Let's hear it from a Shark. Come on.
But I did.
Talking about this from a societal standpoint,
are.
I believe that we can make a calculation to show that we can make a calculation to be like, yo, I mean, you are violating somebody's agency, but we can do some more here. And the violation of that agency is not so egregious that we need to not do it. And the benefit can be good enough to where we can be like, okay, we can be like, we can do this. We can violate some agency here and make things better for everybody. And the likelihood of this being incredibly negative for a large portion of people is very low. If we can do that, then fine.
Well, this is why we wanted to have your foundations down, because we would have asked you why you think that agency in and of itself is some type of moral preference or proposition to begin with. Why do you think that agency is something by which we should have any metric for morals with?
Why agency is something we should have metrics for morals with? Is that right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like people should be able to do what they want without harming other people.
Right. You have
Mostly.
no foundation. It's just preference. Do you get it now? Now you get it finally. Thank God.
Do you
I've learned.
consider Catholics and Protestants to be Christians also, or is it just your Orthodox?
Shut up,
Church?
Maddie.
I have a question.
Answer my question.
Do you consider them to be Christians?
Maddie.
Oh, see? You have no
Maddie, shut
framework. No, you didn't say
Shut up.
anything. Oh
Shut
my
up.
God.
Shut up, Maddie.
You
This
have
one
Maddie,
from
I pray for your children.
Guys, this is getting ridiculous.
Dear
I'm
Satan.
sorry.
Be quiet.
This is
Pray
getting
you
ridiculous.
actually have
Satan.
some, Maddie.
Dear Satan.
Kmax McDonald says, do Rachel and Andrew wish that Congress would pass a law regarding porn then?
Of course they do.
Can you repeat the question real quick? I was too busy laughing at Maddie. Go ahead.
They want to ask if you want to pass a law through Congress regarding banning porn or something like it.
Of course, absolutely. We think that conservatives have as much moral right to utilize the state as secularists do, using our religious paradigms. And I've never heard a good argument for why that's not true. That we should have, that secularists somehow have the market cornered on morality. They most certainly don't. We think that we should be able to utilize the state for our moral aims as well.
This one from Samir Farsanian says, Maddie is a very likable person, smart and funny. I wish that
Disagree.
she would just
From the position
review
of
her
like simply like liberal
positions and she'll
democracy,
make a
like people
great
even
debater.
with like
Rachel and Andrew already
what you
there.
disagree with should be able to
Disagree.
still use the state
This
as
one
well.
from Big Man says, forgive them for
So-
they know not what they do. Hugh to have Hugh says, parasocial relationships are bad, says the people who have a relationship with a man who died 2,000 years ago and only talks to them in their heads. Andrew and Rachel, I think that they're referring to your Christian beliefs.
So it's a parasocial relationship to worship God. I'd love to hear that justified. How you think that that's parasocial?
All that matters is it's super cool to make fun of Christians and call them stupid.
Yeah, the same thing, of course, they wouldn't do to a Muslim. As when Chris was asked, he knew a Muslim, and that was a beautiful person. It's the evil Christians that must be in some way defamed or in some way attacked.
Huh? I just said she was
Christianity
cute.
is cringe, but other religions are cool and respectable.
Well, I had a great friend back when I worked at McDonald's. I took pictures for her, and she was very Christian. They even had like a crucifix in their living room.
Well, then I guess some Christians are okay. Huh?
I never said they were all bad.
Yeah, Christians are fine.
Right. Well, and you would consider yourself one, of course, Maddie.
After she sat here mocking us the whole time based on our Christianity.
I don't consider you reflective of Christianity, but
How would you?
It doesn't matter what you think. That's a
Yeah,
good thing.
you have no moral foundations. You have no foundations at all. As Chris
were you not listening?
Chris just showed us. He literally just showed us. He
Wait,
finally
Andrew,
got it.
why'd you just jump to me like thinking that I hate Christians? Why'd you say that?
Well, I was using the
weird.
example that it's not fashionable to shit on Muslims, but it's fashionable to shit on Christians.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think Muslims deserve shit too. Like some of them do pretty bad shit. I think ISIS.
Yeah.
is
Would you
bad.
draw the Prophet Muhammad?
I have no clue what he looks like, but I mean,
I know.
maybe.
Could you just like make it up and draw him real quick and hold it up to the screen?
I don't
Why?
know. Actually, I can't.
No, I didn't think so.
Well, it's
Dark-
mostly because I don't have any art supplies near me. But
Dark Bag says, I think we can all tell who is still dealing with some childhood trauma. Please seek help and learn to truly love yourself. Peace. They're talking about Andrew. This one from you to have Haku says, we got that one. Kyrie Irving says, Maddie, are you a utilitarian or deontologist? If I remember right, utilitarian, you said.
I would say you just saying it like as a blanket utilitarian, I think would be a bit reductive. I would say a lot of my moral framework is stemmed from utilitarianism, but it's a bit more complex than that. But like that maybe is a decent launching point.
How is it more complex? Do you mix in deontology, or
Do you want me to go
I'm
into
just asking
specifics?
if it's purely consequential.
Do you want me to like
Just
go
asking
into
if
every
it's
single
purely
specific?
consequential. Just asking if it's
In
purely
what regard?
consequential.
In
If
what
it's
regard?
purely
consequential?
consequential, if you only care about consequences.
No.
Okay, so there's a deontological aspect to it, universal morals.
No, I don't believe in universal morals.
Then you're a consequentialist, you dumb fuck. Why did
No, I'm not.
Stupid.
No, I'm not. Okay.
This
How
one
many
from-
cigarettes have you had? I think you're on what, 10 now?
oh no. know.
Wait, so you don't believe in universal morality? So there's different morals for different people?
I believe people have different morals. Do you not?
There's no moral standard, though? There's no
I don't think
universal morality at all?
No.
Oh, that's not very equitable or equality loving of you. That's
Okay. Okay.
This one from Do Appreciate It. Dan Zamet says, Maddie reminds me how fortunate we are to live in a world where women are treated like human beings who have rights and are no longer controlled by men. I think that's
Thanks.
a compliment. This one from
Based.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
this
Thanks,
one-
Andrew. Puff, puff.
Pineapple Platypus says, which is best? This question is from a god. To be a person or to be a people? I don't understand that.
Which is best, to be a person or a people?
Yes.
I think that's. It seems like what they're asking is like, what's better, collectivism or individuality? I don't know.
That makes sense.
Sure. I mean, I guess I don't know how to answer that question. I haven't put like the most amount of thought into that specifically. But
Rights of person
It seems
over the
like-
collective.
Oh, the rights? I thought it.
Yeah.
Oh, it just seemed like, I don't know. It just seemed like what would they imagine to be better? I thought it seemed like it was just asking me from my like framework what would be better. For me, I think I would say it's better to be a person more than a people. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I think it'd be great to, as a bunch of persons, to come together with like individual wants and needs and everything, and try and do something good for like all of us. But at the core, where we're doing things for like ourselves and not simply for others, because I think we're a lot less disposable than that.
This one coming in from Do Appreciate Your Question. We only got a couple more here. This one is a last minute one from Samir Strikes Again says, what happens to OnlyFans girls when they age and can't compete with younger girls and get deserted by their audiences? How do you transition to a real job at 40?
I feel like this person must know my body of work, because this is like one of my pet subjects that I talk about all the time, that we do women a terrible injustice by making them think they're always going to be young and fertile and have that power that comes with youth and fertility, because it's very temporary. And in those formative years when you should be starting a family and building security that way, or even if you want to go to college and have a career and be a single woman your whole life, either of those things would be preferable to building your life around your sexuality, which is so temporary, because there's always someone younger and hotter than you. It's a terrible thing to do to women.
Then is modeling also immoral, because as you get older, you aren't going to get modeling jobs?
I would never recommend that unless, well, it's different though in this way, because you can do modeling while you're going to college or having children or something like that, and you can still do just fine. And it's not the same thing with having an OnlyFans. There's always going to be jobs that you can't get after having had an OnlyFans.
Because of the stigma, right?
No, not because of the stigma. So this is another baloney argument where it's like, well, if we just remove the
why not
stigma,
then?
because why can't we just remove the stigma from everything? We won't stigmatize everything. We'll just make everything permissible then, and then there's no problems. As
Well,
though
what about
the
just
problem.
well, what about just
There's
not
a
taking away-
reason why there's stigma to certain behaviors, and there should be. So
Okay,
yeah.
but what if we just take away the stigma from this? Would it be better?
If
Yes or no?
you have done pornography, there are
Would it be
going to
better?
be certain because I'll explain it to you. There's certain companies, certain organizations of all different kinds, which may not want somebody working for them who may have
Because of
done
the
pornography
stigma.
in the past. And that's perfect. No, it's perfectly reasonable and it's perfectly logical. Do you want your kid's kindergarten teacher to be a porn star? This has happened where OnlyFans models have gotten fired from jobs, they protest, and the courts say, look, we can't force people to hire you because you've done porn, and they don't want to hire someone who's been naked all over the internet.
So
Like,
that
that's
would
fine.
be
what
Wait,
you're saying is the
that's
stigma.
fine.
by your
That's,
own standards. No, by your own standards of people are free to do what they want and they have agency, and they
You're
get the
defining a
consequences of their
stigma.
choices. Then they get the consequences of their choices.
wait,
You
that
can't
is
force
true,
others.
and you can be okay with that. And we could also say we want to change their mind to make them not think that. We could do that as well. Like, these two things are not like mutually exclusive. On top of the point where, like, I'm a YouTube content creator. I probably can't get some jobs from some of the stuff that I've said online. I am perfectly happy with that. because
Yeah.
of the decision that I made as a person. And so, sure, there's some jobs I can't get. Fuck them. I'm much happier doing this, and I'm much happier in a job choice that would be far more
look,
compatible
you
with
guys
me
can
as
sit
a
here
human
with your
being.
utilitarian nonsense of if we just remove the stigma, but it's like people are going to do things in life that are immoral and regretful, and they're going to regret them, and we should warn young people
You have,
about
I mean, you didn't know that they were going to be
consequences.
regretful. Simply, I'm like, I don't
That's
know
an
how many
assumption.
OnlyFans users are going to are really like huffing and puffing and stomping their feet that they can't be like some preschool teachers and some districts in the country. Like,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure
it's
they're
totally
pretty happy.
not harmful when someone goes to your school and like shows pictures of your mom's boobs to your friends.
I think
I'm
what's
sure-
more
I'm
harmful
sure that
is
that's not
showing.
problematic at
I
all.
think
more
what's more
harmful
harmful
is
is
body
is the
shaming.
kid knowing that the kid like having pictures of breasts and showing breasts to other people, and not the
Yeah,
fact that the
because
breast
isn't that
exists.
kid
It's their
watching?
mom's
Because that's a
breast?
child having access to porn. I think that's the bigger issue.
Sure,
in that
that's bad
situation.
too.
Yeah.
But the
don't you
problem
think-
here-
don't you think that if your friend, when you were in school, came over and was like, "Hey, look at what your mom's tits look like, bro," that might have been slightly uncomfortable for you?
Look,
Yeah,
they're
it
just
would be
going to sit here and
uncomfortable
argue
if they
that
had
everything
access
is
to porn.
permissible. They're just going to argue that everything
they're
is permissible
children.
and everything is fine and everything is equal.
literally
and
said
they're
it
fine
wasn't
with
fine.
everything. They've already exposed the fact that they
They're
have
not
no
listening. It's
continuity
okay.
in their logic or their moral systems
Interesting.
at all multiple times. So we
Mhm.
don't have to keep going with it.
Fascinating, Rachel.
Okay. I mean,
This one
yeah,
from Barry?
I think children having porn and showing porn to other children is bad, actually.
It's just like bad.
But isn't it just a little bit worse if it's your mom?
No, it's still bad.
It's
Yeah,
not
but
worse.
if we
I
sat
can't-
here and
I don't know.
asked you to justify why it's bad, you couldn't do it. So
No,
I don't
I
really
couldn't.
care.
Does
It's
it
a
feel-
child.
Wrap it
It's a
up.
it's a child with porn. That's bad. Are you saying it's not?
You would say it's because your preference or because some sort of
So but you
Andy, you're
disagree.
Yeah,
But you
thing is bad
disagree.
because thing is bad. That's
But
what
you, so you
just said.
disagree. You
No,
guys.
you just said thing is
No,
bad.
this is
'cause thing
helpful.
bad.
So Andrew and
Why is
Rachel,
it
it's
bad?
it's bad.
Okay.
Why is it bad?
We will have to wrap up. It's almost
Unhelpful.
12.
Yeah.
It's coming towards 12.
No,
soon.
why is it bad?
Please don't
This
waste our
one,
time.
let's go to the next one. There are only two
they
more
can't
left.
justify their
Barry
morality at all.
Switzer
Self-report.
says- Barry Switzer says Andrew, morality is based on evolution and intuition. Christians are privileged in the U.S., not Muslims.
If such is true, then we
It's just
evolved to
very
be that
odd
way.
how
So
they're going
there
to-
is no
How
argument.
they keep saying,
right? If
it's just very odd how they keep saying that I haven't said that. These are they guys? Is it just me? I feel like I'm not being listened to. I feel like I'm not being listened to at all.
One. This is the last one for the night. That's right. I did forget some of you guys. Shark, are you on Eastern or Central time?
I am on Eastern.
Holy
um,
smokes. Okay. Sorry. It is really late. So
No,
this is the
it's
last
yeah,
one.
us too, but I guess for chopped liver over here, James.
Oh, I didn't know you were. Okay. Well, don't worry. This one's, there's been like a ton of questions, a lot of curiosity. OnlyFans is a hot topic.
We'll stay till the end, man.
Well, good, because this is an insult for you. This one from Craze King 1. Actually, for Rachel. Oh, they say, Rachel, maybe we would take you seriously if you had a single argument instead of just insults. LOL.
Well, I brought more arguments than anyone here, along with a few insults, because I like to bring some entertainment value. So you're welcome.
I want to say thanks everybody for watching. All of our guests, Andrew, Rachel, Shark, and Maddie, can be found in the description box below.
I got one thing I have to interject real quick. I'm sorry. All right. On the Crucible, we'll be taking Q&A, but did you guys know that you'll be able to find James on Rob Noor's stream this Saturday during his 24-hour stream? And I just wanted to let you guys know that.
That's true. This is the first stream I've been invited to in about a year. So, Samir, no, we can't take any more questions. I told you. Let's see. Want to say, please ask your question to Shark. He's over at Twitch, by the way. He's streaming live. And also, what are your guys' main platforms? Maddie is streaming on Twitch. So if you guys are familiar with Twitch, that's her main platform. And then, yes, the Crucible, link down in the description box below. They're streaming on YouTube right now. And yes, I will be on this 24-hour stream. Thanks for the invite. And folks, yeah, it's okay to invite me to stuff. Come on. But I want to say thanks everybody for being with us. It is going to be an amazing rest of your night. Hopefully you get good sleep. And thanks Andrew, Rachel, and Shark, and Maddie one last time for being with us. It's been a true pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
you're
Take
welcome.
care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it'll make Boo very sad. I know a bunch of you who are watching are not subscribed. Join the frenzy. You won't regret it.